Hello, good evening, good day, everybody, and welcome to the Ask Abhijit show. This is episode 364. I hope you're all doing great. Uh, we will take questions from the super chat, from the regular chat today, as many as possible over the next maybe 2 3 hours, maybe more, depending on how many questions we have. And the questions can be about any topic, as always. And before we get into the questions, let's see who all is there on the live stream. I can see the Hell Dragon, Swapnantar, Bhutia Kahani Hindi. Okay, the HZ, uh, Pankhuri Mathur, uh, ER Drub Shah from Nepal, I believe. Yes, from the land of Pashupatinath. I have not visited, but I would love to visit. I would absolutely love to visit. Rishabh Chaudhary 4512, Ranu Nahapana, Hail Chamunda Devi. Of course, indeed, yes. Rohan Biri, happy Sunday to you, sir. Geopolitical Dubai, good evening, sir. Geopolitical Dubai is here from Indore. Sylvester Stallone Limited, good to have you. Rekha Humbleji, Jai Shri Ram, ma'am. Meghna Kothari, good evening, ma'am. Harshay 009, Hail Kartikeya. Ayush Singh, Pranam Sarji, indeed. Rogue Gamer, good evening. Amaya Tulpule is here. Bonjour, monsieur. Je suis émerveillé que vous soyez là. Merci beaucoup. Swami is here from Jaipur. Good to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Global Danda, namaskar. Mary Kane, good morning, ma'am. Good to have you as well. Always, as always. Ankit is here from England. Ram Ram Sarji, indeed. Priyanshi Sood, Om, madam. Abhishek Shukla Live is here from Kanpur. Thank you so much, sir. Rogue Gamer, good evening. Yes. Vench Acharya Jai Shri Ram from Ahmedabad. Yes, indeed. Manikanta Gaur is here from Schwarzwald. Good evening to you. Animals for Laugh is here from Mumbai. Swami is here from Jaipur. Rishabh Chaudhary says WWE kind of entry. Yes, if you think so. Yeah, great. Feels strong, man. Hello. Good to see you. Siddharth Mishra is here from Bilaspur. Sunday ki Ram Ramji. Dheeraj Kamath, good evening, good morning. Have I watched 12 Angry Man? I'm sure I have seen it, right? A black and white movie in a courtroom. Must have seen it, yeah. Panchar 4161 says Maga winning. Okay, Chandni Priya, namaste ma'am, namaste, Om. Anant GS, namaste G. Chitij Ladda. Hello. Okay, sorry, I could not, yeah. All right, good to have you. Thank you. Rehan Koja from Burundi. Well, good morning to you, sir. Developer Samay, hello. Dheeraj Kamath, good evening. Kahan is here from Delhi. It's raining and nice cold winds. Good to see the change in weather in Delhi. Good. Karthik Sharma, what do I think about the recent oil found near the Andamans and Nicobar? We'll take that question. Sure. Ritwij, Hare Krishna. Developer Samay, hello. Ishan Barot, no sound? No sound? Really? There's no sound? No audio? Let me check the audio. Do we have audio? Hello. I can hear the audio. Okay, hopefully it's working fine. Is the audio fine? Can you let me know, people? Anita is here from the Netherlands. Good evening. Good evening-ish. Yeah, I suppose. Good evening, ma'am. Ritwij, thank you, sir. GSR, favorite World Cup team. Well, there's no India, so what? We'll support somebody, I suppose. Bhavya Gupta is here from Manchester. Yes. Guten Tag aus Schwarzwald, Deutschland. Dishant Tiwari. Guten Tag indeed. Thank you. Ayush Singh, Scully-wise, Mohan Krishna, Animals for Laugh, Debojit Das. I think the audio is okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for letting me know about that. Sometimes some people may experience some, yeah. Okay, so let's get going with some questions. So the question is about Bhavya Gupta from Manchester. Thoughts about the Andaman oil find? And someone else earlier asked the same question. I will not be able to find the question once again, but okay. So, first of all, what is the news? I heard about a gas discovery. An Indian minister, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, I believe he posted somewhere on social media about it. It was a natural gas discovery. But has oil also been discovered in the Andamans? Let's quickly find out. Let's ask our best friend Google. Okay. Has oil been newly discovered in the Andaman Sea or the Andaman region? Let's see. Yes, a major hydrocarbon breakthrough has occurred in the Andaman region, though the specific discovery is primarily natural gas rather than crude oil. Oil India Limited, oil, made significant natural gas discoveries in deep water exploratory wells in the Andaman Sea. Sri Vijayapuram 2 and Sri Vijayapuram 3 exploratory wells. The discovery happened there. 15 to 17 kilometers off the east coast of the Andaman Islands. 87% methane, representing a high quality, clean energy resource. So the immediate discoveries are natural gas, but they typically come with petroleum, you see. The identification of an active petroleum system is in the in this frontier basin highly bolsters geological models, and experts believe it significantly increases the likelihood of nearby crude reserves. The Andaman Sea is a deep water underexplored basin. Commercial extraction is estimated to be years away, and so on and so forth. Okay, right. So it's gas, it's natural gas that's been discovered. They drilled 3 wells, they discovered gas, natural gas, in 2 of those wells. That's fantastic. And this is just the beginning of the exploration of this untapped energy uh, potential reservoir. So I think that's fantastic, right? One critical dependency that India experiences every single day is that it depends on outside sources for energy. Okay, if you, I mean, there's something called sovereignty. You all heard speak. You all heard me speak about sovereignty very often, right? India is a sovereign nation as per my calculations, but those calculations are basic calculations. Okay, when it comes to energy sovereignty, India is not energy sovereign, and that's a major Achilles heel of India. So if India can become self-sufficient in terms of oil and gas, that is it. That is it. Of course, for that we will have to bolster our naval forces as well, because if we discover oil in the Andamans, we need to set up, naval bases there. We need to have way more ships, submarines, and missiles, and so much more in the region to set up A2AD bubbles, anti-area access denial, and so on. Anti-access area denial, whatever it is, A2AD bubbles. So I think it's fantastic. And these are deep water finds. So it's going to take a few years before India can operationalize these. Right now, what needs to happen is that India needs to explore more, drill more oil wells. I mean, drill more exploratory holes into the thing, and hopefully discover major reservoirs of not just natural gas but oil. That's what India needs to do. I think there's plenty of oil sitting around, just waiting to be found. And India has been super lazy all these decades, not bothering to do anything because, yeah, we can just import, right? Enough of this nonsense. So I think it's fantastic. It's extremely encouraging news, I would say. Very much so. Right, okay. Let's take another question. What other questions do we have? The Hell Dragon says, what is your perspective on the massive shift in socio-cultural significance and importance from golden-haired Indra in the early Rigvedic era to dark-skinned Vishnu and Shiva in the Puranic era? Okay, so you are implying there was a picnic of some kind somewhere. Yeah? A picnic of some kind. What picnic? Aryan picnic? Are you implying that? Or maybe it was a migration. So there's this set of models. Initially, it was the Aryan invasion model. Did not work. So they turned it into the Aryan migration model, which is currently the mainstream scenario. That my ancestors, people who look like me, my ancestors were white guys who came from somewhere in Central Asia or Eastern Europe. My ancestors were white men with blue eyes and blonde hair, which is why I have somewhat lightish skin. That's the model. That's the mainstream model today. Invasion is discarded. Now it's migration. And migration also, there's no real evidence of that. So they're going to say it is tourism. And eventually it's going to be the Aryan picnic theory. I should write about this. The Aryan picnic theory. Yeah. Nowadays, everyone, posts about this on Twitter. Aryan picnic theory. Who coined the term, by the way? It was me. Of course, nobody is going to give me credit for that. People are going to steal that all. Everybody is. So Aryan picnic theory is now a pretty reasonably well-known term on Twitter. Shall we discover that? Shall we look at Twitter and search for Aryan picnic? Let us do that. Give me a second. Let me pull up Twitter. Pull up Twitter. Okay. Yeah, let me put that on the screen. Aryan picnic. Let's search for Aryan picnic and see how many people are tweeting that now. Yeah, the term I coined. Aryan pic. PICNIC. Aryan picnic. How many people are tweeting about this? Aryan picnic. Oh, okay. I tweeted that. Aryan invasion. That's okay. Aryan picnic theory. Aryan picnic theory. Someone used the words Aryan picnic theory. Yeah, it was me, sir. It was me. It was me. Picnic. Let's put that into quotes. And see now. It'll give you some more exact search. What's the latest? Aryan picnic theory. Yeah, everyone's using it now. Everyone's using that. Do these people follow me, I wonder? Yeah, follow me. Aryan picnic theory. So yeah, it's now becoming mainstream, this term that I coined, and so on. Anyhow, the point is that the question you're asking, this massive shift in socio-cultural significance and importance, like you say, from golden-haired Indra in the early Rigvedic era to dark-skinned Vishnu and Shiva in the Puranic era. Now let's understand that Lord Shiva does appear in the Rigveda. He's called Rudra. Okay? And Indra, what's the term that's used for Indra? I wonder if I can recall. Harikesha. Harikesha is the term that's used in the Rigveda for Indra. Harikesha, Hari Mashru. Mashru means beard, right? Harikesha. Let's fact check what my memory is telling me. Is Indra referred to as Harikesha in the Rigveda? Is Indra referred to as Harikesha in the Rigveda? Let's see. Yes, Indra is indeed referred to as Harikesha in the Rigveda. The one with yellow, golden, or tawny hair. Okay? Golden and so on. He's also Hari Rupa, by the way. Okay? He's also Hari Rupa. His Harikesha means golden hair. His Hari Rupa means he himself is golden. And Hari Mashru means golden beard. And the point, like this AI seems to be saying here, allegorically, exactly, allegorically, he is compared with the sun and cosmic energy, lightning, all that. See, the sun is golden, right? The sun is a swar, is swar kshetra. Swar kshetra is sun, the sun. Swar means the sun, and it also means golden, Suvarna. And kshetra means radiant, effulgent, all that. So when Indra is referred to as Harikesha, or Hari Rupa, or Hari Mashru, he is being allegorically, metaphorically being compared with the sun. See, the thing is, in the West, okay, if you're a student who studies in the West, if you have a good education, if you go to good schools and good colleges and all, you are exposed to classic poetry, Greek poetry, the Iliad, the Odyssey, Homer's things. You're exposed to various Greek plays, Sophocles, and so on and so forth. Oedipus Rex. Okay, that's fine. And to various forms of English poetry, Francis Bacon, William Wordsworth, and so on. So you get an exposure to things such as allegory, to metaphor, alliteration, simile, and so on. Now, in India, we have a far larger corpus of poetry and verse, and a far older corpus of poetry and verse, but none of our children, none of our students are ever exposed to anything unless they willingly themselves, of their own initiative, expose themselves to it. You won't get any exposure to this in school, college, university. And that's the problem. That's why we take everything literally. So if Indra is referred to as Harikesha, we say, oh, he must have had yellow hair, which means Aryan invasion. Hari Mashru, oh, his beard was yellow, golden. Right, he was an Aryan invader. Or picnic comer or whatever. But what about Hari Rupa? What, he had yellow skin now? What's he, Homer Simpson? So let's not take things literally. Let's understand the subtleties and nuances of poetry, of metaphor, of allegory, of simile, other things. And the oldest poetry is the Vedas and our ancient texts. Okay? Now, Rudra also makes many appearances in the Rig Veda. How many times is Rudra referred to? Let's see. How many times approximately is Rudra referred to in the Rig Veda? Okay, 75 times. What about Indra? Indra. So Rudra is 75, Indra is 3 million, I'm sure. 250 times. 250 hymns. He is the primary god. He is the most frequently referred to deity. Okay. Now, when it comes to Rudra, what is the typical description of Rudra in the Rig Veda? Fierce, unpredictable, powerful deity, contradictory, dread archer, celestial bow and arrow, dread beast, braided and matted hair, Kapardin, radiant, tawny or fair complexion that shines like the sun. Okay, okay. And so on. Right? So Rudra also appears. I'm not sure when he is he referred to having as a, okay. What is he referred to as having dark skin? Ever? Let's see. The bright, fair complexion, Ghor, Kapardin. That's a dual nature. No, he's not referred to as having dark skin in the Rig Veda. Okay. So, okay, that's a very interesting. So other deities, dark skin, but not the Vedic deity Rudra. Interesting. So it's something that we need to study, but it doesn't mean that there was an Aryan invasion or something like that, right? So when it comes to a deity being referred to as Hari Rupa or radiant or bright, it doesn't necessarily mean they actually had white skin or golden hair or something. All right, that's the point. Okay. Let's see. Ayush Singh says, have you watched Game of Thrones? How would you rate it out of 1 to 10? Look, the first 7, I've watched the Game of Thrones. Yes, I've watched the entire thing. And the first 7 seasons, I would rate them 9.5 out of 10. The last season, I would rate it 1 out of 10. So, okay. All right. Ishan Pandey says all the translations should be taken metaphorically. Without a guru, understanding Rigveda is beyond impossible. Rudra is referred to as red or dark red. That's metaphorical. Yeah, so understand. You are right, Ishan Pandey. So we have to understand that we should not take these things literally. We have to understand the metaphorical, allegorical nature of ancient texts and of poetry, even contemporary poetry. The problem is that we aren't our youngsters, even me, we aren't exposed to poetry, to classic poetry, to great poetry in our while we are being educated. I am a huge fan of poetry, but whatever I've read of poetry is I've done it on my own initiative, right? So, and I'm sure that if you are in English medium in India, standard 7, 8, 9, you will have some poems that they'll put in your English textbook. That's not enough. You have to be exposed to real great, profound poetry, but that never happens, unfortunately. Karan Rawat says, how to achieve true happiness in life? How to achieve true happiness in life? Live a meaningful life and create things that matter. Create something of value, right? Something that fulfills you. Something, the act of creation gives you happiness. I mean, that's my personal view. Okay, for other people, maybe the act of destruction. For some people, maybe the act of destruction gives happiness. I don't know. I can only give you my perspective. I think the act of creation, creating something, that gives happiness. So if you spend a life, if you create many things in life, you create things of value in life that other people, that gives value to you and to other people as well, I think that gives you happiness. And that life can be tough. You may spend many years working really hard to create value, but when you see the value that's created, and it is beneficial to the lives of other people in your life as well, I suppose that gives you happiness. See, a life without struggle is not going to be a happy, fulfilling life. You know, there's no happiness without an element of struggle, without an element of exertion, right? I mean, if you see Usain Bolt being happy after winning the gold medal in Olympic Games, do you see the 4 years of absolute brutal toil that went into it? But the outcome was that moment of happiness and the moment of glory. And now he can retire happily. So the point is, true happiness comes from achieving something, creating something, and that takes toil. Yeah. Okay. Pranjal says, how do inorganic compounds create life? We don't know. That's a big mystery, right? What's the origin of life on our planet? Big mystery. So what do we rely on to answer these questions? What do we rely on to answer a question such as the one you have asked over here, Pranjal? We rely on observational evidence. We rely on hard facts, hard data. So what's the hard data that we have? If we look around the planet Earth and we look at archaeological, paleontological, not archaeological, but paleontological evidence, fossils in rock and so on, then we find that the oldest fossils that we have ever discovered on our planet are the fossils of stromatolites. And those fossils are 3.77 billion years old. What are stromatolites? Stromatolites. Yeah. Okay, this is what they look like. Stromatolites. So these structures were created by very ancient bacteria, the oldest known bacteria, the oldest known life forms that existed on our planet. And the oldest specimens of these fossils are 3.77 billion years old. So based on the data, the evidence that we have, the oldest life on Earth was present 3.77 billion years old. The planet itself formed 4.5 billion years ago, and the solar system formed 4.6 billion years ago. And the early Earth, the early planet, was very different from the Earth that we inhabit today. The atmosphere was radically different. There was almost no oxygen. It was full of carbon dioxide and God knows what other frightening gases. If we inhale them today, end of story. And the day was roughly 10 hours long, not 24 hours long. The Earth was spinning really fast, and there was no moon. And then things happened and so on. And then one day life emerged. The question is how? So you have volcanism, you have lava, you have hot, noxious gases, you have lightning all over the place. Is that enough to create the components for life? So you can do experiments where you take various inorganic compounds and water, and certain gases in a test tube, and you pass light and electricity through it for a week. And after a week, if you open the thing, you'll find that there are amino acids inside. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Proteins are the building block of life, muscle, tissue, everything, right? So amino acids are can be produced like that in a test tube using the same ingredients, gaseous and non-gaseous ingredients that were present in the very early period of the existence of our planet. But the true fundamental key to life is DNA. How do you create DNA? DNA is a shockingly complicated molecule. How do you create that? So if you see the human DNA, okay, if you look at the human DNA, it's a huge molecule, gigantic molecule. And we know at what rate it grows, okay? We know the rates of mutations and so on. And we know at what rate, if you see the DNA of a bacterium, we know how large it is. How many kilobytes or megabytes of data are in there. And you know at what rate it grows, at what rate it doubles, roughly. So if we take the human DNA and we interpolate it back in time, then for the simplest DNA to be present, you go back to about 2 or 3 billion years in the age of the universe. But our solar system did not even exist then. So then, how did DNA evolve on the planet? So maybe the answer is the DNA maybe did not evolve on our planet. Maybe it was seeded onto our planet through cometary or asteroid impacts. Maybe it evolved in outer space. So we don't know the answers. That's the panspermia hypothesis, right? So we don't know the answers. And that these are some of the big questions, that we are trying to solve. The mystery of the origin of life on our planet. Okay, let's take some other questions. Real Vladimir Putin says, is it true that British educators started adopting Indian methods of learning before the British destroyed the education system of ancient India? I don't know. In India, the British did not ever, try interfering in the education system until the mid 18th century. Until then, they just observed how things were in India. They were only interested in trade and extraction until 1818 or 1819 or whatever it was, or when missionaries were introduced forcibly by the Parliament of England, right? And it's then that they started, the process of destroying the Indian education system and imposing a foreign education system on India, which still continues. But did British educators adopt Indian methods of learning in England or in India? I'm not sure what the question is, but I've not seen any evidence of it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not aware of it. But anyway, I don't know. What else do we have? Okay, Asura says, what do I think? What do I think of the drop in birth rate? I think it's 1.7 or something. Is it dangerous? What should India do? And your thoughts? Okay, what do I think or what do you think? Who is me? I am me, you are you. Okay. What do I think of the drop in birth rate? What's India's TFR now? Let's see. What is India's current TFR? It's declined to 1.9. This is alarming. What is TFR, total fertility rate? It's the number of children, okay, that the average woman in India will have in her lifetime. So no woman can have 1.9 children, obviously, but it's an average statistical figure. We have 1.4 billion people in India, roughly 50% women, right? So it's about 700 million women. So how many children will the average woman have in her lifetime? Right now it's 1.9. That is alarming. See, our population is the largest in the world, 1.4 billion. So if you want to if you want the population to remain the same, the TFR has to be 2.1. If it goes below 2.1, the population starts declining, which is fine. We have too many people. Our ideal population is 300 million, not 1.4 billion. It's a disaster overall. But if the TFR starts dropping very rapidly, what happens is that the population declines, sure, but the average age of the population rises and everybody looks like me with gray hair. By 2050, what is China's median age supposed to be? Let's see. What will China's median age be in 2050? China's populations median age be 50 to 52 years. The average Chinese person in 2050 will be 50 to 52 years old. Okay, what about Japan? Japan, 54. Okay, what about 2100? In the year 2100, what will be the average age of a Japanese person? 55. What about China? 61.7. So by 2100, the average Chinese person will be 61.7 years old. Imagine a nation where the average person is 62 years old. Imagine that. Who's going to man the armed forces? Who's going to go and put soldiers on the borders? Who's going to do things that young people are supposed to do? There'll be hardly any children left. That's a population crash that you will see eventually. So I think it is very alarming for India. It says it's 1.9 right now. That's alarming. I agree that the Indian population needs to come down. It needs to come down. The ideal population for India, not the whole subcontinent, but India itself today's nation state of India, it's 300 million. But that should be achieved over the next 200 years, not over the next 50 years. Otherwise, we're going to have a population crash and there will be no Indians left. So I think it's dangerous, extremely dangerous. And you have to use a little bit of thinking to understand what I am trying to say here. Okay, go a little deeper below the surface level analysis to understand the correlation between dropping TFR and increasing median age, and what that means for long-term population collapse, absolute collapse. That's the destruction of a nation and civilization. So we need to reduce our population, but that process needs to take 200 years, not 50 years. That's the whole point. Okay. Ayush Singh says, we reported 7.7% of yearly growth this year, GDP, I suppose. What do you make of this? Let's see. What is India's GDP growth this year? 7.7% for the full financial year. So India's real GDP growth is estimated to be 7.7% for the full financial year, with the final quarter clocking a strong 7.8% year over year. It's primarily driven by robust private investment, etc., etc., etc. All right. Okay, look, it's all fine. Good, haha, very nice. But long term, we need this to first of all be sustained long term. Okay, long term, like the next 20 years. If we have 7-8% growth for the next 20 years, good, I'll be happy with that. But that is not all that we need. We also need deep and wide reforms, and that is not quite happening. We need reforms in every sector. Reforms in the ease of doing business, reforms in the taxation sector, reforms in education, reforms in industry, reforms in defense acquisition, reforms in Make in India. We need so many reforms. We need reforms in the way we elect politicians and elect leaders. We need reforms in the sense that we need to stop giving reservations to all persons. We need to stop giving freebies. There is so much wastage in India. So imagine if we do all those reforms, where India's growth will be. It will not be 7.7%, it will be 15% at least. So that's what needs to happen. We are growing despite all the problems. We need reforms in the alleged corruption and dealing with that. What about that? So these are the things that need to happen. It's good to see 7.7% growth. No question. It's good. But can we sustain this the next 20 years? That's the big question. Because the geopolitical environment is getting, more and more complicated. I promise you it's going to get more complicated. Right? So, yeah. Okay. Ishan Pandey says, what do you think of the Yamnaya invasion? The left brag historians claim that they originate in Europe itself. What's your view on this? Where did they come from? Okay. Yamnaya invasion, right? Let's do some looking up on Google, even Wikipedia. So, first of all, let's assume, okay, for the sake of argument, that the Yamnaya originated in Europe. So there must be white men with European patrilineal lineages that dominate their genetics, right? Obviously. So which are the haplogroups that dominate Europe? R1A, R1B. R1A, R1B. So one of these two has to be there. And they should be white people with predominantly blonde hair and blue eyes, right? They should have white skin. You can, if you examine a deceased person's DNA, you can tell with great accuracy what their eye color, hair color, and skin color is going to be like. Okay. And R1A, R1B are the haplogroups that dominate Europe. But the question is, where do they originate? They don't originate in Europe. They dominate Europe. R1A and R1B. I mean, R1A dominates India as well, and R1B is the sister haplogroup. But R itself originates in India, by the way. Now let's see on Wikipedia and etc. etc. Yamnaya, right? Yamnaya people. La 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 la. Okay, Yamnaya culture. So let's find out first of all what was the haplogroup that the males had predominantly. Haplogroup R1B. Yeah, like I said, so R1B is the most common Y-DNA haplogroup. It's rare in Western Europe. It mainly exists in Southeastern Europe today. Okay. And they also have J2I2, which is also found in India and so on. Okay, good, fine, fantastic. Okay, people of the Yamnaya culture generally had brown eye color, intermediate skin color, and dark brown or whatever hair color with some variation. And they were typically like close to 6 feet tall, the average Yamnaya man, right? Height. Let's see height. Height. Tall. Let's see tall. How tall? How tall were they? No, it doesn't tell you. But I know that they were, close to like 5'10", 5'11", sometimes 6 feet tall. Now, what is hair color? Hair color. Okay. So they typically had brown eye color, intermediate, which is not white skin color, and dark brown hair color with some variation. Okay. Some of them had some genes of blonde hair, but generally brown eye color, intermediate skin color, dark brown hair color. So I have reasonably gray hair now, but when I was younger, I had dark hair color. My eyes are brown. My skin is intermediate. I am 6'1". What's it tell you? Am I Yamnaya now? I'm a pretty robust guy. Okay. And R1B. The predominant haplogroup is R1B, which is not found in Western Europe, apparently. It says, we can look it up, whatever. Wikipedia says it's not found in Western Europe. I think it is. R1B, I think it's very predominant in Western Europe. R1B haplogroup. R1B. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's pretty predominant in Western Europe. And today it's not really found in India too much, right? What's the percentage in India? Yeah, India. Let's see. Group India percentage. Like 5%? Yeah, I told you. Yeah, there we have it. So we have it, but it's not that predominant in India anymore. Why is it not predominant in India anymore? So look, from the things we saw, if these fine gentlemen were European in origin, why did they not have white skin, blue eyes, and blonde hair? Why did they have intermediate skin color like this? Why did they have dark hair and brown eyes? So the verdict is still out there. The jury is still out there about where they came from. Okay, that's all I'll say. Aishwarya says, why is it that geopolitics is full of temporariness and lack of trust and pure mutual gain, etc.? Why is it so objective and detached? Is it largely due to political situations? No, it's because of human nature. It's because of human nature. That's all it is. Human nature. If you look at the history of humanity, how far back can we go in history? When it comes to Indian history, we can go back, from archaeological perspective, we can go back 9,000-10,000 years. But if you look at written history and written all that, let's say we can go back 5,000 years. But if you see world history, you will find that all geopolitical change, all historical change has occurred as a consequence of warfare. All progress has happened as a consequence of warfare, technological progress and whatnot. Not all, of course, but yeah. And even see, geopolitics is full of temporariness and lack of trust. Politics. Look at Indian domestic politics. It's the same thing. I just don't understand why people can't correlate domestic politics with geopolitics. The principles are the same. It's just human nature. It's human nature. Okay. Okay, let's take some super chats now. The HZ is a new member. Thank you very much. It's the HZ. And welcome to the channel's membership. Swapnanthar is a new member of the channel. Thank you very much, Swapnanthar, and welcome to the channel's membership. Okay, Kakashi says, a Chinese general called Pakistan China's Israel. He must have done it for the benefit of the Indian audience, because Pakistan is no one's Israel. Pakistan is Pakistan. It belongs to the US. Okay? Pakistan, I mean, recently there was some event in Russia, and some Indian journalist, I mean, imagine the mental caliber and lack of understanding of Indian journalists who cover international relations. Some Indian journalist asked a question to Vladimir Putin in which he referred to Pakistan as a Chinese ally, as a nation that's controlled by China. He referred to Pakistan as a nation that's controlled by China. That gentleman must be so incredibly clueless about geopolitics, about international relations. Pakistan is owned, managed, and operated by the United States today. This is how clueless Indian journalists are. Okay? So I don't know who this Chinese general is. And if he called Pakistan China's Israel, he must have done it for the benefit of the Indian audience. Okay? Pakistan is not China's Israel. Pakistan is America's asset, vassal. That's what it is. Kshitij Ladda says, your views on Swami Vivekananda. Look, I haven't studied Swami Vivekananda. I haven't read any of his writings, books, whatever. I know about him that he is regarded as a very great, very learned, very spiritual, very evolved philosophical teacher and guru. So that's what I know about him. I personally haven't really read anything about him, so I can't say. Jellyman says, what would happen of Hindus or to Hindus if Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and Maratha Empire wasn't there? Hindus would survive anyway. Yeah, they survived until the Maratha Empire happened, right? Hindus survived. Somehow or the other, they survived. So if the Maratha Empire had not happened, then Hindus would have still survived. That's the nature of Hindus. They survive, right? And if the Maratha Empire hadn't happened, then the British would have defeated the Turks by the 1800s. And then we would still have come under British occupation. So that's how I see it. Kakashi says, 1. Okay, you're referring to exactly what I referred to. First of all, Indian journalists asked Putin if Pakistan is under Chinese control, and Putin said not fully. Mr. Putin has he has a wry sense of humor. Okay. And secondly, Balen Shah said UK should mediate between Nepal and India. Who's his master? Of course, Balen Shah. So yeah, exactly what I referred to just a while ago in your question. Some Indian journalist asked Putin a question in which he referred to Pakistan as being a nation that's controlled by China. Putin said not. I don't know what Putin said. If he said not fully, then must be what he said. But Mr. Putin has a nice sense of humor. Pakistan is fully controlled by the US. Okay. Imagine how clueless our journalists are. Incredible. They have and they cover international relations. They travel to Moscow, they travel to other countries, and they have no understanding of what's actually happening. And I wonder how many millions of people follow these individuals. This one journalist I'm referring to is not the only clueless person out there. There are more prominent journalists who are super clueless, utterly clueless. I shall, of course, not name them, because what's the point? Balen Shah said UK should mediate between Nepal and India. Who's his master? I wonder who's his master. Yeah. Why does he want? First of all, what's the need for mediation between India and Nepal? What's the issue between India and Nepal? There's no issue. Some border thing here and there. That's nonsense. That's artificially created. There's no border issue between India and Nepal. The India-Nepal border is anyway open. We are one people, India and Nepal. These people are trying to create artificial problems. They are artificial issues. between India and Nepal. Okay, Balencha is clearly the minion of somebody in the West. A minion, right? Balencha. So he wants the UK to mediate. Who the hell is the UK to mediate? So he must be a super mentally colonized person on top of being someone's minion. If he wants the erstwhile colonizer and occupier to mediate over here, they're not welcome. Yeah, anyway. Okay. Mary Kane says Google. First thing to build in Moon L4 and 5 is automated propellant depots and communication relay stations. Yes. Artemis missions. Yes. The next thing I'd want is grasslands agriculture lab and seed bank in space habitats. Questions. You. What would I want to do? I think the Artemis mission. I could Google what are the first few missions about. So the Artemis program is underway now. We've had the circumnavigation of the moon by a fully crewed mission, like 3-4 people were there, astronauts were there on the mission. They circumnavigated the moon and returned to Earth successfully. Very smooth, excellent, very, yeah, great job. Now, the next missions are going to be about sending goods to the moon, sending materials to the moon that will be used to create a habitat, right? So, like you say, automated propellant depots and communication relay stations. Yeah, you need that, because see, there are times when the moon. Yeah, if you're on the south side of the moon, if you want to communicate with Earth, there'll be times when there's night on the moon, which is fine. Yeah, but if you have a satellite that's circumnavigating the moon in a polar orbit or something, that is a useful thing to have as a backup for communications. So you need to have a relay set up on the ground, on the moon, on the lunar surface, that can communicate with the Earth and also potentially with a relay satellite in orbit around the moon. So yeah, you would want that. You want automated propellant depots. You want materials that will be used in the future to build habitats. So you want to send all that stuff to the moon without sending human beings first. And yeah, that the next thing you say you want is you would want is grasslands agriculture lab and seed bank and space habitats. It'll be interesting to. So okay, the question is, what would I want? I would do it step by step. I would first send all the materials to the moon that are required for constructing a human habitation, a permanent habitat, right? A modular equipment, modular building materials, construction materials that you can simply assemble together quickly to create a habitat. So you wouldn't probably send 5 or 6 missions just carrying that stuff, automated missions that land soft, that do a soft landing on the moon, and the stuff just stays there until humans come. Then they can come and open and unlock it and take the stuff out and quickly construct a habitat in over the course of a couple of Earth days or something, right? So I would send all the materials to the moon first over the course of 4, 5, 6 missions, which would include propellant depots, which would include, I suppose, some water and other stuff as well. That will last a while at least until you can discover water on the moon. We know it's there, but we need to go and find it. So I would do that. And once a habitat is in place and there's, let's say, 3 people or 5 people living there, what would I want there? I don't mind an agriculture lab to see how plants grow in the moon's gravity. So we know that, look, all the vegetation on our planet, it is its DNA encodes the Earth's gravity, right? But the lunar gravity is 1/6 the strength of Earth's gravity. So it's not quite microgravity like what we have in orbit, but it's weak gravity. The moon's gravity is much weaker. Small g is 1/6 of 9.8 meters per second squared. 1/6 of that. Small g. Yeah, in case you know basic physics. I'm sure many of the viewers do. So that's the point. So it'll be interesting to see how plants grow there. A seed bank, sure, but you would also need soil, because I'm sure the lunar soil will not be conducive to the growth of plants. And the lunar soil is actually a big issue, It's called the regolith. The lunar regolith is actually potentially very problematic. Why? It's got these very tiny soil particles, silicates and whatnot, I suppose. And these are microscopic, and they are like razor blades, extremely sharp edged particles that can cause havoc in machinery and whatnot. I'm sure it's dangerous to breathe that in as well. Let's say you go for a moonwalk, okay, not the Michael Jackson moonwalk, but you put on your astronaut suit and you go for a walk and do some construction work or whatever. Then you return to your base, okay, and then the astronaut suit is hung up on let's say a hanger or something, and the dust that's on the boots, it potentially could get inhaled. That could be a danger. That could perhaps potentially pose a long-term risk to people's lungs and airways. So one would have to worry about that as well. There's the question of radiation. If you stay on the moon for, let's say, a month, you're gonna be exposed to way more radiation than you are exposed to on Earth or even in orbit. So there are all these things that will need to be looked into. For short-term missions, no issues. If someone goes to the moon for a week and returns, no issues. But if you want long-term habitation on the moon, we're going to have to look into these things. Radiation is a major issue. You could have a 10 to 20 100 times higher incidence of cancer if you stay on the moon for, let's say, 3 months. That we don't want anyone to have that. So then what do? Do you line your habitats with lead? Lead will stop radiation, but lead's super heavy. Lead is super heavy. This much lead and this much iron. Lead is like 5-6 times, let's say, the periodic table. Just to figure it out. Periodic table. So iron, where is Fe? Fe is 26. It's got 26 nucleons, okay? Protons and neutrons. Now, where is Hg? Hg is 80. Okay? So iron is 26 and Hg, which is Hg is mercury. So where is Pb? Pb is 82. Lead 82. It's way heavier than iron. So you can't really send too much lead out there into space. It'll be a huge amount of weight. So what do? Do you create underground habitats for long-term habitation? That's a potential solution, but then you'll have to send drilling equipment up to the moon. So there's all these tricky issues up there, you see? There's these tricky issues out there when it comes to long-term habitation on the moon. Similar issues we'll have to face on Mars whenever we send humans to the planet. So yes, I agree that we should send automated propellant depots. We should send modular, habitat construction equipment and just assemble it together. Communications relay stations, yes, we should have that. The question is, what kind of habitats do we create? Because we're gonna face this problem, radiation exposure. Secondly, the lunar regolith is potentially very dangerous. If you inhale it, or if it gets into machinery or whatever, it could play havoc with perhaps with computer circuits. Right? So those things will have to be looked into. And then water. You'll have to discover water very rapidly if you want to set up base, set up a station there long term. And then once these things are taken care of and looked into, and these issues are resolved, then yeah, it'll be fun to have an agriculture lab and seed bank and all that on the moon. Yeah, once you have that, you'll have to perhaps import earth soil to the moon, and then do agriculture on the moon eventually. Kakashi says, Dharma or nation first? Many Indians think US is against terror because they caught bin Laden. Ha 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 ha. Third, did Asian tigers grow due to US help, like GYJP, like GYJP is Japan, SK South Korea, Gulf, Asian. Okay. Asian tigers. I was wondering what tigers. I mean, we have Indian tigers, Chinese tigers, Sumatran tigers, Siberian tigers. You're talking about the economies. Okay. Dharma or nation first? Civilization first. And nation is part of civilization, and Dharma is part of civilization. Okay, what is our civilization? It's our culture, our dharma, and our nation. And it's not just a nation; it's the subcontinent. That's the civilization. It's beyond the subcontinent too. Eventually, well, actually, not eventually. In the past as well. So I would say civilization first. That includes dharma. That includes culture, which is part of dharma anyway, and nation and our sacred geography. Civilization first. Secondly, what can I say? Many Indians think that the US is against terror because they caught Bin Laden. Right. Who funded Bin Laden? Hmm? Did the United States fund and support Osama bin Laden in the 1980s? Oh, no, they did not directly fund, but indirectly funded. The CIA funneled 500 million in arms and funds, etc., etc., etc. Okay, Osama bin Laden, warrior for peace. Hey, warrior for peace. Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road to peace. 1993. The Saudi businessman who recruited Mujahideen now uses them for large-scale building projects in Sudan. What was his name? There's no picture? What was his name? Anti-Soviet warrior puts the army on the road of peace. Osama bin Laden. Isn't that nice? This is a UK-based thing. Anti-Soviet. 1993 independent article. Anti-Soviet warrior for peace. Okay, so that's how it is. UK also is in the same boat, by the way. Have you heard of the Irish Republican Army? Have you heard of the Irish Troubles? Irish Troubles. Irish Troubles. The Troubles. Okay? Ethno-nationalist conflict in Northern Ireland lasted 30 years from the late 1960s to 1998. Northern Ireland conflict. See, Northern Ireland is under British occupation illegally. Okay? The Irish aren't English, they aren't British, but it's under British occupation. It's Britain, it's British occupied Northern Ireland. And the Northern Ireland people, they want freedom from England, obviously, from Britain. So they fought a conflict, not a Gandhian conflict, but a real conflict against the UK. And this conflict went on and on and on until 1998. Suddenly it stopped just like that. It stopped magically in 1998. Who was the British Prime Minister in 1998? Tony Blair. So once Tony Blair comes to power, the Irish Troubles miraculously end. The British called the IRA a terrorist organization. Okay, IRA. So IRA bombing of Margaret Thatcher's hotel room. 1984. Look at this. Margaret Thatcher's hotel room. Look at this. They tried to assassinate the Prime Minister of England, of the UK. Okay. So in 1997, Tony Blair becomes the Prime Minister of the UK. And he immediately adopts a very, very pro-US policy. He becomes essentially a lapdog of the US. And the Irish conflict ends magically. What's it tell you? I'm just pointing out a coincidence. Just a coincidence, I suppose. Right? Okay, did Asian tigers grow due to US help? Because GY, what's GY? I'm sure there's Japan, South Korea, Gulf. There's always US help in that. But that US help always helps the US. Yeah? Okay, Somalia Paul says, what's the significance of the Burmese president, him meeting Ajit Doval and high-ranking people and the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi? Is it all show or can something happen? That's a good question. Why aren't people noticing these things? The president of Burma recently visited India. He met with Prime Minister Modi. It's been a week or so. When did the Burmese president visit India? Who is Burma's current president? Where did he go on his first foreign visit? And where was it? And when was it? Okay. Burma's current president is U Min Aung Hlaing. Min Aung Hlaing. U means Shri. Okay, U means Shri. See this? When you see U in Burmese, it means Shri. Shri Min Aung Hlaing. He went to India for his first foreign visit since taking office. He arrived in India on May 30, and he began the trip with a pilgrimage to Bodh Gaya. And then he met with Prime Minister Modi and Ajit Doval and so on. Okay. So what's the significance of this? First of all, those of my dear viewers who are not aware of where Burma is, let's find out where is Burma. It's somewhere not far from India. Let's find out exactly where it is. Burma, Myanmar. So if we look at the map of the subcontinent, we'll see various nations, and to our east, we have Burma, which is a reasonably large country. Okay, it used to be part of British India. In 1935, it was partitioned out of India against the wishes of the Burmese people. Against the wishes of the Burmese people. Culturally, they are just like us. Culturally, their culture is our culture. Okay, but it's geographically it's part of Southeast Asia, and so is India's Far East. Actually, geographically part of Southeast Asia. Anyhow, so Burma is currently, sadly, regrettably, unfortunately, in the midst of a civil war. Okay, the government of Burma is based in Naypyidaw. Okay, and it does not currently, the government of Burma currently does not have full control over the entire country. Large parts of the country are under the control of various armed ethnic groups. And there's like dozens of armed ethnic groups in Burma. Roughly, I'm saying roughly, very roughly, half of them are indirectly supported by China, or directly perhaps. And roughly half of them are in some shape or form, or directly, indirectly, whatever, supported by the United States. So it's a US versus China proxy war going on in Burma. And who suffers? The people of Burma and the government of Burma. Now, the government of Burma is a military junta. It's a dictatorship. And Mr. Min Aung Hlaing is, you could say, the dictator of Burma. It is what it is. Doesn't matter. How do I care? It doesn't matter to us whether he's a dictator or democratically elected or whatever. Now, why is this? Now, this civil war in Burma, is it a problem for India? You bet your last rupee it's a problem for India. It's spilling over into India. It's causing havoc in Manipur. There's a bunch of this ethnic group called the Chin-Kukis who live in the Chin state in Burma. Okay, where is Chin state, Burma? Let's find out. Chin state, Burma. Where is that? Here we have it, Chin state. Okay, it borders Mizoram, Chattogram, which is currently Bangladesh for now, and Manipur. And Manipur is facing the brunt of this nonsense, because these terrorists are entering Manipur, Mizoram, etc., and they are causing havoc in India. The disaster that's unfolding in Manipur, the root cause of that is the immigration of vast numbers of illegal infiltrators, cookies, into India, who are then waging war on the indigenous people, the Meiteis and the Nagas. Okay, so if we have stability in Burma, we can send the infiltrators back, and they can be dealt with by the Burmese government. Not our problem anymore. And we also, if there is stability in Burma and the government of Burma can fully control the country, then the Chinese problem also goes away, hopefully. So the question is, what do we do about this? Because historically, the government of Burma has been strongly influenced by China. Okay, China has had disproportionate influence in Burma. Why is this the case? Because India decided to fall asleep. Burma is culturally the same as us, but we completely neglected Burma. So Burma had to turn to somebody for help, for development, and so on. So they turned to China. Burma has large quantities of natural gas. They sell that to China. Burma has rare earth minerals. They sell that to China. India was never concerned. India was never bothered about these things. Even Thailand wanted India as a protector. Burma also wanted India as a protector, but India never bothered to protect even itself. Forget about other countries. But now, the Burmese president came to India, and hopefully we can turn a new leaf and work with the Burmese government to stabilize Burma in whatever way is possible for us to do. I'm sure there are many ways in which we can do it without actually sending boots on the ground. So the question for India is this, okay? We have interest in Burma. We have the long-standing 3 million years old Kaladan multimodal project, because we are too scared to take Chattogram. That's why I'll tell you what it is, okay? We play this stupid, asinine, absurd geopolitical games instead of having some cojones, like they say in Latin, cojones, like caramba. So the the Kaladan multimodal project is that you send a shipment of whatever, tomatoes, bananas, whatever, from Kolkata by ship, okay, and it stops at Sitwe port in Burma. Sitwe is here, and from Sitwe it goes up the Kaladan River up north. From there you go by road or rail or whatever into Mizoram, and then you can supply our far eastern states with goods from Kolkata through this long winding route, right? Or we can just take Chattogram and connect our far east with the ocean, but we are too scared to do that. So that's why we have this Kaladan project. Now this Kaladan project, it goes through Chin-Kuki infested areas. So we need and it also passes through the Rakhine Strait, where we have other ethnic groups. So we have 2 or 3 options. One option is we ignore the government of Burma and we work with all these different ethnic groups and we fall prey to their blackmail. The Chin-Kukis will say, let us destroy Manipur and then we will allow you to send this stuff through Kaladan. The Rakhine guys will have some other demands. So we work with all the different patchwork indigenous, not indigenous, but patchwork ethnic groups. And we have these shifting alliances with them, and they will also be influenced by China. So we are always vying for influence. That's one option we have. The other option is we work with the government of Burma to stabilize Burma and to squash these ethnic groups. And then we can work one-to-one with the government of Burma, and we can hopefully have stability and prosperity in Burma and in our Far East. So maybe the government of India will take the sensible choice and work with the government of Burma to quash all this unrest and stabilize Burma, get rid of the 2 different kinds of foreign influence that you have in Burma, and then have peace, prosperity, and everything. That's the deal. So it looks like India is taking the sensible, right choice. Maybe we are still hedging, I don't know. But maybe we are thinking of partnering with the government of Burma in solving these problems, which is what could explain the meeting between the president of Burma, Shri U, etc. online, with Shri Ajit Doval, with U Ajit Doval. That could explain it potentially. So I hope, let's be optimistic and let's hope that the right, the right things happen. Right. Ghost of Bonaparte says, Mon Général, we shall begin to Miga today with me. Okay, we shall begin. I look forward to it. Yes, merci, monsieur. Merci, Mon Général. Miga, make India great again. Yes, okay. Rohan Suneja says, your reply to those Indians who believe that we are a Vishwaguru, and why do Indians automatically assume that all rich people are evil? Why is it so? India is not a Vishwaguru. We should ban the word Vishwaguru until 2050 at least. India has one of the trashiest, worst education systems in the world. What Vishwaguru? We are not even Vishwa student. Indian students, what do they aspire to do? They aspire to leave the country. and get a master's degree or bachelor's degree or something, or PhD outside of India. So you save up money, your entire family sells their property and everything just to save up some money, which will be used for your tuition, education, and upkeep over there. And with that money, you go and stand in queue in front of the US embassy for hours in the sweltering heat, and then you are mistreated by the staff at the US embassy and so on. Then eventually, if you're lucky, you get a visa. You go to the US, you enroll in the university where your teacher is also Indian, where your professors are also Indians who also came in the same way to the US. And once you get a degree, you are hoping, praying for an H-1B visa somehow, and you will not be deported. That's the plight of the Indians. Is this Vishwaguru? It's a Vishwa joke. So those who claim that we are Vishwaguru or we will be Vishwaguru soon, they need to have their heads examined, whoever they are. Okay, now why do Indians automatically assume that all rich people are evil? Because the last 250 years, 300 years, rich people were evil. I'll explain why. Last 1,000 years, to some extent, once India came under Turkic occupation, the Turks wanted to kill all Indians or convert them, convert or die. But eventually there were so many Indians, it was impossible to kill them all. So they adopted other means. But during the Turkic occupation of India, the so-called Mughal kingdom and empire and all, okay, at that time, if you were rich, if you're a wealthy person, it meant that you served the Turks. If you were an indigenous Indian who was still Hindu or any of the dharmic paths, you could not be rich. Or you could be rich by being a collaborator with the foreign occupiers. If you were collaborating with the foreign occupiers, you were participating in their oppression on your people, which means you were evil. You were a traitor. Then came the British occupation of India. During the British occupation of India, the British also did atrocious things to Indians. Hundreds of artificial famines, hundreds of millions of Indians were killed. But some Indians were prosperous. Some Indians were wealthy. When the British were ruling India, an Indian could become wealthy only if he served the goddamn British. If you served the foreign occupiers, were you not evil? Were you not participating in the exploitation of your people in your country? Do you understand why Indians still have this ingrained in them, that if somebody is rich, they must be evil in some way? After 1947, after partition, you had the Nehruvian license Raj, and then you had income tax rates of 97%. Did India? I gave a number. Am I completely delusional? Let me see. Did India ever have an income tax rate of 97%? Yes. I was wrong. It was 97.75%. So when you have such horrific extortionate system, how could anybody become rich? Unless they were doing something shady, super shady, and they were hand in glove with God knows who. So in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on, when you had this horrific extortionate system that was imposed on Indians, it was impossible to become rich unless you were doing something really shady and something really crooked. Do you understand? There's a real reason for these things. Unless you were very corrupt, allegedly. You see, there are reasons for this. There are real reasons. We have been under foreign occupation in some shape or form for the past 1,000 years. So now it's part of Indians' blood and DNA that they're mistrustful of people who are rich. They automatically believe or imagine that they must have done something crooked, shady, or evil. This is the reason why. Okay, Minimalist Maverick says, why is Rousseau silent? What is it planning? What's Rousseau? RU is Russia. What is SO? Okay, why is Russia silent? What is it planning? I have no idea. Is it silent? Mr. Putin was giving a press conference a couple of days ago. Why is Russia so silent? It's not silent. Mr. Putin gave a press conference to a whole bunch of media just a couple of days ago. I'm not sure what silence you have seen. So, and if Russia is planning something, well, Mr. Putin hasn't let me know what he is planning, so I can't really say. You see, Kakashi says Hindus in the US be like Sar, please like us. We are not trouble like somebody Sar. MAGA hates us cause we're Hindus, pagans, you idiots. Who did Nehru really work for? Okay, see, like I've said many times, Indians are saddled with this inferiority complex. The overwhelming majority of Indians have this inferiority complex. They crave the approval of the white man. Okay? When they see somebody with white skin, they automatically assume this person is greater than us and, we are inferior and he's superior or she is superior. I am not saying you should hate white people. Why? No, they are just people like us. The point is, why do you feel inferior? And there's reasons for that. Okay, the past history of the past 1,000 years, right? So Indians are saddled with this massive inferiority complex. So they want approval. They crave approval. Please like us. Please like us. Please say something good about us. And Indians love compliments. Indians respond incredibly well to flattery. All you need to do if you're a white person, say a couple of good things about Indians or India, and you'll get whatever you want. They'll do whatever you want for you. Yeah, that sort of thing. So yeah, and look, we aren't pagans. We are Hindus. I don't know, paganism. That's a Christian term. Why do we need to use terms that are incompatible with our culture and civilization? We aren't pagans. We're Indians. We're Hindus. That's what we are. Who did Nehru really work for? I wonder. Well, Mr. Nehru was magnificent. The greatest prime minister in the history of the past, present, and future of India. Right? He worked for causes we can't even fathom. Who are we to even try and understand what he did? He was too great for us to understand. I have no idea who really worked for. Somali Paul says, I've been watching you for more than 4 years. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. You told many times Persians, mostly 4,000 years old, but how come they mention in the Mahabharata as Parshva, as also Sakas? Sakas are not Persians. Parshva. Let's see. Mahabharata, Parshva. Mahabharata, Persians. Shared Indo-Aryan Persian, blah blah ram raz nam nam nama. Mentions in the epic. Look, there is no mention of Parshva, okay, in the Ramayana. Kambodjas, Yavanas, and Pahlavas are mentioned, sure. There's no Parshva that's mentioned in the Ramayana or the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, sorry. Mahabharata Parshva. There's no Parshva mentioned in Mahabharata. Yeah. No. And we don't know how old the Mahabharata is. Maybe 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years old. I don't know. There's a huge dispute and controversy going on among Indic scholars about that. I can't stand the way they bicker amongst each other on social media. So I am out of that entire matter. I'm not getting involved in that, how old the Mahabharata is. I would say it would roughly correspond with the Saraswati Sindhu phase of our history, right? Which is about what? The mature phase was about 6,000 years old, maybe 7,000 years old. So maybe that's the time period of the Mahabharata, possibly. And that's way before Persia. Way, 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 way before Persia. Right? Where does Persia start? With the Median dynasty. The Medes, right? The Median dynasty. That's Persia. That comes before the Achaemenid dynasty. Median dynasty, Persia. So, yeah, that's 700 BC. The first Iranian empire, like you say, right? And who was their first king? Dioesis. What's Dioesis? What is Sayaxares? They mangle the names of almost like our kings. See, for example, Sayak Saris. His name was Uvakshatra. His name was not Sayak Saris. It was Uvakshatra. Uvakshatra. So why do they say Sayak Saris? For example, you have Fraortis. His name was Fravartish. Fravartish, not Fraortis. Fravartish. And they won't even mention it here. Fravartish, not Fraortis. Astyagat. Astyagat, right? Not Astyages. His name was Astyagata, not Astyages. And why is he shown with blonde hair? I really wonder. and so on. So the point is that there is no Parsua mentioned in Mahabharata. The Kambojas, the Yavanas, and so on are mentioned, sure. The Sakas aren't Iranians. The Sakas could be considered to be Indo-Iranian, Indo-Persian, whatever. Yeah, are they mentioned in the Mahabharata? Maybe the Sakas could perhaps have existed 6,000 years ago. Potentially, yeah. Right, so let's read the text properly before concluding that the Persians exist in the Mahabharata. All right. Mr. Busy Bee says, I want to dress Indian. Would you suggest wearing dhoti to college? Shouldn't the way we dress reflect our culture and civilizational ethos? I'll tell you what you should do. Wear a nice polo shirt, maybe a full black polo shirt or a purple polo shirt, or whichever color you like. Nice polo shirt, nice watch, nice sneakers, and a dhoti. You look awesome. Okay? So let's combine tradition with, like they say, modernity or contemporary dress. As long as you have a reasonably good, you're in reasonably good shape, a nice polo shirt with a dhoti and with nice sneakers and a nice watch, you will look awesome in that. Try this out. Okay? Dhotis go great with polo shirts. You should do that. Right? Try it out. All right. I highly encourage you to do this. Kakashi says, in India and the West, police are corrupt. Okay, I'm not saying that. You said that. Incompetent except Singham Anamalai. In China, people love the police and go to them for all issues with no fear. All right. I will refrain from commenting about this. But okay, I hear you. I hear you. Satellite, namaste. Satellite. What is that? Okay. Satellite. Thank you. Namaste. Safi Rahal says, need big population to be great superpower nation? What's the ideal one? 50 to 100 million, 100 to 200 millions, and how much land mass is ideal for a country? Okay. Let's put this in historical context. Okay. Let's take some historical examples of past superpowers. What are the past superpowers we can think of? For example, in the Mediterranean region, Rome was a superpower. In that region, Rome. Let's ask our friend Google a question. What was the population of Rome during the lifetime of Julius Caesar? The population of Rome was, okay, the city of Rome, of the Roman kingdom, let's say, the Roman kingdom. Let's amend 45 to 70 million people, because they had already absorbed so much, right? Okay, just before the lifetime of Julius Caesar. 4 to 5 million people. So it starts with that. That's the seed, 5 million people. So Julius Caesar, he's the guy who took Rome to greatness and expanded it so much. So when he started, it was 4 to 5 million people. That was the population. Okay. And what was the size of the Roman kingdom? Size of the Roman kingdom. Okay, 2 to 3 million square kilometers. Republic, etc. Okay. Let's forget about the size. It's 4 to 5 million people. Okay. What was the population of So one example is Rome. Just before it became a superpower, the population was 5 million, 4 to 5 million. Another superpower I can think of, Mongolia under Shri Chinggis Khan. Okay, let's find out the population of Mongolia. Mongolia ruled half the world. Chinggis Khan ruled half the world, half the old world. So, what was the population of Mongolia? Mongolia during the lifetime of Genghis Khan. Okay, whatever. Less. Okay, relatively small. That's 700,000 and 10 million people. So let's say it's 5 million people. Once again, it's 5 million. Once again, it's 5 million. Rome, 5 million. Mongolia, 5 million approximately. Let's take one more question. Okay. Okay. What was the population of England? England in let's say 1500 or 1700. Let's England in 1800. 8 million people. Okay, what about 1700? 5 to 6 million. So that's around the time when England starts its ascent to becoming a superpower. So it looks like the ideal population for becoming a superpower is around 5 million. 5 million. Landmass doesn't matter. You need a population of 5 million maximum. Actually, during the time of Genghis Khan, the population was close to 1 million actually. And his army, Genghis Khan's army at any given point in time was never more than 100,000 people. Okay? You could fit the entire Mongolian army that conquered half the world into a football or cricket stadium. Okay? What landmass is ideal? Depending on the population. The more, the better, I would say. Okay, Samrat Shukla says, Understanding America, book tour, movie recommendations, deadline now. Understanding America is, it's later. Book tour, well, let me first come up with a couple of books, write them, right? Yeah, so I appreciate you wanting this and it will happen. Movie recommendations. I'll have to make a video about that. I won't be able to think of some movies right now. I'll miss a lot. I'll have to make a video about that. So thank you for the reminder. Thank you so much for the reminder. I'll do that. Abhishek Srivastav says, why is there so much hate against Indians on X? It's being manufactured and engineered. It's because India is not behaving the way they want us to behave. We are being geopolitically sovereign. We're trying to be as sovereign as possible. We are not falling in line. We are straying off the reservation. Very naughty behavior. That's why there is hate being engineered against Indians on X. Okay. Pratardana says, it's hilarious when you say alleged corruption. Well, you see, you've got to play defense. You've got to be careful. Okay? You got to be careful. So, I'm glad it's hilarious. I'm glad that you are entertained. Are you not entertained? Sagar Ghare says, is Urdu language our sort of foreign language? Well, you see, the grammar is purely Indian, Sanskrit Prakrit grammar, grammatically. Vocabulary wise, it's 50-50. 50% of Indian Sanskrit and Prakrit based vocabulary, 50% of Persian and Arabic and Turkic vocabulary. Okay, so I'll tell you something. Let's figure out some of the words that are foreign. Not aulad. It's see the Arabic word aulad. Arabic word aulad. What does the word mulayim mean in Turkish? Mulayim. Bland. It's a Turkish word. Mulayim. Turkish. But Indians imagine it's an Indian word. Mulayim means Turkish. What does chiger? What does chiger mean in Turkish? Chiger. Liver. Jigar ka tukda. Chiger means liver in Turkish. Okay? What does tawa mean in Turkish? Tawa means frying pan or skillet. It's not an Indian word, tawa. Okay? What does hawa mean in Arabic? In Arabic, the word hawa means air or wind. It's not an Indian word. There's so many of these foreign words that exist in this Urdu language, which are not Indian in origin. If you replace those words with Sanskrit or Prakrit origin terms, you elevate the discourse immediately. Right? So Urdu is a mongrel language. It's a mixed language. The grammar is entirely ours. The vocabulary is significantly foreign. And you know what? I'm fine with Persian origin words. Persian is like an extension of Indian languages. Okay? It's not really foreign to us, Persian. It's an Indo-Iranian language. It's derived eventually from Sanskrit. So I have no issue with the Persian origin words. My issue is with the non-Aryan words. Aryan means Indo-Iranian. My issue is with the non-Aryan words that are being used. We should use pure Arya language, pure Arya vocabulary. I'm okay with Persian vocabulary. That's Arya. But Turkish and Arabic is not quite Arya. No offense meant in any way whatsoever. No disrespect meant. I'm just saying your language should be yours. That's it. Pratardana says Pakistan gets money from the US and weapons from China, but no sanctions on Pakistan. But they only have problem when India buys weapons from Russia. Why? Because they want India to be completely under their control. When you say they, you mean the US, right? The US and its Western minions, vassals, they have a problem when India buys Russian weapons. Why? Because they want India to be fully under their control. It's as simple as that. Why are you not under our control? Why are you showing signs of sovereignty? Why are you buying weapons from guys we don't like? You buy our weapons, you get completely dependent on us, and then we'll say you're a nice little good boy. So the question for us is, do we want American approval? Will we feel nice when the English-speaking man pats us on the head, good boy, good doggy? Do we want that? That's the thing. They have a problem with this because they want to completely, fully control, colonize, vassalize us all over again. That's what they want. And that's the deal, you see? Rashik says, how did you get in geopolitics, start and grow this channel? Okay, you want a story? I can tell you the story. How did I get into Okay, how did the channel start, first of all? So the channel started, I think in early 2020, I did a pilot version of the Ask Abhijit show. I took questions. I think I announced on Twitter or something that I'm starting a new show, Ask Abhijit show on YouTube. And ask me questions. I'll answer your questions on video. And I did one episode of that. It was recorded very unprofessionally, very very amateurish recording. It's there somewhere. I'll tell you what. Okay, I'll show you. Give me a second. I have some clips of that. The actual original 1 hour plus long video is on another channel. I'll show you what. Okay. So if we go to this YouTube channel, I'll open this YouTube channel on the screen. Give me a second. So let's go to my channel and see this channel on the screen. This is my channel, right? And this episode is live right now. We go to videos and we go to the oldest ones. And you see these these thumbnails, 5 thumbnails. That's 6 years ago. So that's clips from the original episode of the Ask Abhijit show. Okay. That I made in, I think, the first quarter of 2020. And it got some decent views and all. Okay. Then I did not do anything. I did not follow up on the Ask Abhijit show for quite a while. Then in December 2020, I made a video about Genghis Khan, why Genghis Khan refused to invade India. And that was a reasonably well-made video. Okay. And that blew up. Got over 1 million views in a short amount of time and so on. Okay. So that happened. And even after that success of that video, I did not really follow up much on this channel. But then I started getting invitations for podcasts. I was invited by various podcasters. One of the channels where I've gone so many times is the Ranveer show, Ranveer Alabadia. I have done more than 30, 35 podcasts on his channel, right? Until now. And when I did the first podcasts out there on these channels, they also blew up. So it was like all this was telling me that, it looks like people want to hear what I have to say. So then I restarted the Ask Abhijit show, I think in May or June 2021. And that's how this channel started, essentially, properly. And this is episode 364, so I've done a lot. That's how the channel started, and I've made all kinds of videos on the channel, some recorded, lots of lives, and so on and so forth. How did I get into geopolitics? Well, I've always understood geopolitics because I understand history. I've studied history my entire life. My entire life. Since before the age of 10. I've been, out of curiosity, I've been studying history. In my teens, I read the entirety of Will Durant's his Story of Civilization. And then eventually I realized if you understand history, you understand everything that's happening in the world today because the same patterns are in play, right? So that's how I understand geopolitics. And one of the first episodes I did with Ranveer was about geopolitics. And I think it's in that episode that we introduced the term geopolitics in the Indian domain. Because until 2021, all Indian experts were called strategic affairs experts. It was I who introduced the term geopolitics in the Indian sphere. And now everyone's a geopolitics expert, right? So that's the brief story. All right. Godliness says we still have corruption, allegedly. Illegal mining, leftist lethargic bureaucracy, and unaccountable political setup. On the top, no judicial, labor, or education reforms. You don't become Viksit with freebies. I wish the right people hear what you have to say because I completely agree with you, allegedly. I agree with you. That's essentially what I've been saying for years. But, well, I suppose change takes time, reforms take time. I don't know. Where's the war against corruption in India? Is corruption even recognized as a problem in India anywhere by our esteemed leaders? And all the other stuff that you, freebies and whatnot, reservations, the death of merit. Viksit, what Viksit Bharat with all this stuff, right? Vishwaguru, superpower, Viksit Bharat. So how will it happen with all this stuff? This has to be addressed. And if you don't address it, then what are you doing? Yeah. Kakashi says India is fully encircled except maybe Sri Lanka. Second, in the US, capital sits above the government. In China, government sits above capital, and capital and markets are used for public good. Yes. Yes. In the US, capital controls the politicians. We know that. Politicians sit on various boards. Politicians are in the pockets of various corporations. Politicians have business empires. Presidents have business empires. So that's the deal in the US. Super corrupt, but corrupt at a very, very high level. The corruption doesn't victimize the people. People don't even see corruption face to face, but they hear about it. In India, it's the people who deal with corruption. The average person has to deal with corruption on almost allegedly a day-to-day basis. Especially allegedly when you interface or transact with the government or its organs, allegedly. So that's the deal with India. The US, it's different. In China, the government sits above capital. And capital and markets are used for the public good, for the development of the nation and so on. Yes, correct. That's why China is developing. They're a success story, right? India is fully encircled except maybe Sri Lanka. Maybe. Fast Snail says West does not recognize Soviets' role in the victory over the in the Second World War. The Soviets lost 27 million to German brutality. None of the memorials give any credit, even though they were allies. Well, the thing is, the moment Japan surrendered, the alliance disappeared and the West trained its guns on the USSR immediately. And the USSR was caught by surprise, I promise you that. Let's see this, okay? Let's ask our friend Google about this. Okay. In the 20th century, did the USSR ever offer to join NATO? Yes. The Soviet Union formally proposed joining NATO in March 1954. Western powers, which means the US, quickly rejected the offer. Blah, blah, blah. They're trying to now justify that. The USSR actually wanted to join NATO. They did not see the West as their enemy. But the West made NATO an anti-USSR alliance. That's why the USSR had to create the Warsaw Pact alliance. They realized these people are treating us as enemies. Why? We have no idea. You see? That's how quickly things change. Let me show you something else. Okay? Did Vladimir Putin ever propose joining NATO? Propose Russia joining NATO? Yes, even Vladimir Putin proposed the idea of Russia joining NATO on multiple occasions early in his presidency. So even he had a moment of growing up once he realized what the West is all about. You see? And yeah, you're right. They denied the USSR's role in the victory over the Germans in World War II. It was the USSR that did the bulk of the fighting and winning and dying. Okay, the USSR did all the work, and Hollywood portrays the way the US and the UK as the winners and as the heroes. It's the Soviets who were the heroes. They lost, like you said, 27 million men. 27 million men. How do you make sense of that number? Right. Sid Barka says, our politicians are compromised. Kids are settled abroad. Then why guilt trip people on national duty for wanting to leave too? They themselves don't want their kids to live in the mess they created. Well, can I disagree with you on any of the points you've raised? I wish I could, but I can't. Let me Google something. Okay, let's find something. What do the Chinese mean when they refer to naked officials? Yeah. Let's see. A naked official, Luo Guan, is a term for a Chinese Communist Party or government official who remains working and living in mainland China while their spouse and minor children reside abroad. Because the term implies an official is stripped of domestic ties, it carries several strong and political and social implications in China. Corruption and flight risk. The public and government largely equate the term with corruption. The practice is often used to easily funnel illicitly acquired wealth offshore and serves as a contingency plan for the official to flee the country, a naked exit, if they face legal investigation. Secondly, security and loyalty concerns. From a governance perspective, the Chinese leadership views these officials as a security risk, fearing that foreign governments could pressure or leverage them through their families living overseas. Third, regulatory consequences. Due to these risks, China has instituted strict bans preventing naked officials from being promoted or holding certain leadership positions. In many cases, these individuals are required to bring their families back to China or resign from their posts. The Chinese are a serious nation. Is India a serious nation? That's the question. Kui says, I want to buy your geopolitics course. Could you please tell me where I can enroll and what topics and benefits the course offers? Thank you. Right now, the course is, because of a platform issue, right now it's not available for purchase. I'm going to make it available very soon. Going to make it available for not purchase, but, see what I'm planning to do soon. I'm creating a Discord community properly this time, in which I'll actually be participating, unlike past attempts where I did not have any idea of what this thing was. I'm going to be creating a Discord community in which I shall be most likely giving this course to the members. So give it some time, please. I'm figuring this thing out. This month, the whole thing will be done by the end of this month. Okay? Just give me some time. And benefits and topics, you can see. Prajwal says, why Russia gave Alaska to the US? Because it was a logical decision. It was too far away. They could not administrate from Moscow. It was on the other side of the planet, and at that time there was no knowledge of what natural resources existed in Alaska and what was the use of those natural resources. For example, there's oil and gas in Alaska. In the 19th century, at that time, nobody knew what was oil, gas, and what was the use of that. So at that time, it seemed like a logical decision. It was just too far away. It could not be administered easily. It could be taken by the Americans by force. Instead of that, sell it to them. So that's why. Shivansh says Nazis and British are same Rawalpindi experiments. Chemical weapons experiments on Indians in Rawalpindi. Right? Mustard gas, was it? 1940s mustard gas experiments on Indians, Rawalpindi. Rawalpindi. Okay. Between the 1930s and 1940s, British military barbarians, scientists from the Porton Down Chemical Warfare Facility conducted secret tests on hundreds of Indian colonial soldiers in Rawalpindi, okay, India. These brutal experiments were intended to measure the battlefield effects of mustard gas and compare skin reactions between Indian and British troops. Nature of the experiments: soldiers were placed in gas chambers wearing only drill shorts and open necked cotton shirts, or were fitted with faulty gas masks to see how much mustard gas was required to produce casualties and severe burns. Many soldiers suffered severe blistering, long term pain, and eye damage, requiring immediate hospitalization. As colonial slaves or subjects, these soldiers had no agency to refuse these orders. The researchers did not conduct any long term medical monitoring, and they completely abandoned the subjects once the tests ended. These human trials remained hidden for decades. They were eventually brought to light following the declassification of the British government files housed at the National Archives in London. The story was first broadly exposed in 2007 in a report by The Guardian, sparking international outrage regarding the treatment of colonial troops. Okay? And the point is, why did the government of India after 1947 not investigate these things? So, how are the British different, any better than the Nazis? Good question. Yes. Somalia Paul says, I'm a fan of yours for around 4 years or more. Thank you so much, sir. I really like when you comment my question as good question. Okay. I'm glad you do. This is a comment. It's not a question, so I can't say good question, but thank you so much for having been a viewer for 4 years or more. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Fast Snail says, China fumes over Rubio tweet on Tiananmen Square. Thoughts? What happened on June 4th? Nothing happened on June 4th. Yeah. Nothing happened on June 4th. June 4th, 1989. Nothing happened at all. Rubio is very naughty. Absolutely naughty person. Nothing happened on the 4th of June, 1989. Nothing at all. Nothing whatsoever. Right? Nothing whatsoever. June 4th, 1989. Tiananmen Square massacre. The Chinese massacred their own people. Tiananmen Square massacre. Now, Google itself is censoring the brutal images, the violent images. So why is Google so pro-China, I wonder? Earlier, you could see actual evidence of the aftermath of the brutality. Now we have to dig deep into the pictures. Then Google won't show them. Is there any safe search or something? Nothing. Anyway, I don't want to show any of the horrible stuff here. So yeah, anyway. Piyush Shukla says, message 1, Indra Gandhi took bold war decision versus US backed Pakistan in emergency, but Modi now prioritizing GDP compounding instead of bold steps. Even though India today can crush Pakistan, Bangladesh together and go tit for tat versus China, sustain Western sanctions before they sanction us again for taking POK, Chittagong, Rangpur. Modi still prefers GDP growth. So the question is, see, like you say, there are options for India. One option is we play the game we are playing. We remain a nice nation. We try and avoid any friction with the US. We just keep our heads down and focus on GDP growth. Slowly, we will grow GDP, and someday we will have some leader who will have some initiative. Initiative. That's one option. The other option is go and get what you want. Get back POK, break Pakistan, get Rangpur, get Chattogram, fix everything. And okay, the US will impose sanctions. We'll deal with the sanctions. We'll eat the sanctions. Fine. So we can't trade with others. Okay, so then we then become a manufacturing nation. We manufacture for ourselves. So that grows our GDP. If technology is denied, we'll make our own technology. That's the harder way, but that's also a viable way. Indira Gandhi did that, didn't she? Okay, they won't sell us chips. They won't sell us laptops. We'll make our own laptops. Why can't we? So, but is it the harder way? Is it the harder way? It's of course it's the harder way, but it will bring perhaps faster progress. So yeah, these are the two options that we have, and we are choosing the option of lesser resistance. It looks like, yeah. Then Indians won't be able to visit abroad. All the Indian naked officials, what will happen to them? What will happen to their sons and daughters studying abroad? What will happen to their families stationed abroad? What will happen to their alleged bank accounts, allegedly, if they exist abroad? What will happen? Everything will be frozen. What happens then? That's also an issue, right? Think from their perspective. MMA says, why US betrayed India and Beka during Operation Sindoor? What's a Beka? What is a BECA? BECA. US-India military agreement, basic exchange and cooperation agreement, is a landmark military pact signed with the Americans. Allows both nations to securely share classified satellite data, blah blah, etc., etc. Greatly enhances Indian military's targeting accuracy for drones. How? By using American systems. That is madness. There is stupidity, else stupidity. So I don't know what Beka in Operation Sindoor. My point is, the Americans came in India's way. If the war had gone on for another 2 days, we would have broken Pakistan. We would have taken back significant territory. And that's why the Americans stopped us. Why? Because it benefits them. They need Pakistan to continue existing as a counterweight to India, as a terrorist entity that can bleed India on demand. That's why the Americans need Pakistan. Do you understand? That's why. Sharma 108X says, thoughts on upcoming one world government? Well, I'm not aware of any upcoming one world government. I don't ever want it to happen. If it happens, it's a disaster for India and for the world, for every civilized human being, for freedom and liberty worldwide. Right? I'm sure there are individuals who are working on that and who want a one world government, who want a monoculture across the world where everyone is a zombie. Everyone is hooked up to God knows what, mentally and physically. And everyone can be controlled and used as resources. The Matrix scenario. I hope it never happens. And those who are allegedly, potentially trying to do that, well, they're evil. Very evil. Dheeraj Kamath says, is the story of raw agents finding nuclear site at Kahuta using hair DNA from samples collected nearby and then Morarji Desai fake? Or is it possible despite the nuke station in Pakistan being American? Good question. You're raising the point I have been making, and you are questioning the potential validity of that, potentially. So the point I have been making is that, in my assessment, the nuclear weapons that Pakistan has are not Pakistani. They are American nuclear weapons stationed on Pakistani territory, aimed at India, and operated by American technicians. And the Pakistanis don't have access to those, but they are on Pakistani territory. Just like you have American nuclear weapons on Dutch territory, on Turkish territory, and so on and so forth. That's what I believe very strongly, but I have no evidence to support my claim, my belief. So I am very clear that I believe this, but I don't have the ability to prove it. Now, What Dheeraj is asking is about the story of raw agents discovering that the Pakistanis were working on a nuclear program in Kahuta. How did they discover this? Because nearby you had barber shops and all that, where people would come for haircuts. And if you collected those haircuts and you tested them, maybe using Geiger Muller counters or whatever, they turned out to be radioactive, which means those people were working in a place where you had significant radioactivity, which means they're working on a nuclear program. So that's the story. Is it a true story? I don't know. But let's say it's a true story. Okay, let's say it's possible it's a true story. It's a good way of figuring out whether somebody is working on a nuclear program, whether a nation has a nuclear program. So let's say you suspect that, this place, Kahuta, maybe something is going on there. So how do we figure out what's happening? So this is a great way, go to nearby barbershops and trail individuals who go in and out of that complex and see where they get a haircut. Then take a sample of the hair. Perfect. Excellent spy work, I would say, if it's true. So assume it's true. Then what I am saying then disproved by that is the question. So my contention is that the Pakistani nuclear weapons are actually American nuclear weapons. But if this story is true, then Pakistan had a nuclear weapons program. Then how can my contention be correct? Because Pakistan was working on an actual nuclear weapons program. Well, my contention is correct because the Pakistanis are dumb and they don't know how to make nuclear weapons, even if they have fissile material. Okay? That's the point. I can give somebody uranium, but will they be able to make nukes out of it? That's the point. That's the question. That's the real question. Do they have the wherewithal? Do they have the technical, scientific know-how to take that raw material uranium and make a working nuclear weapon out of it? That's an engineering and physics problem. Physics, nuclear physics, engineering, chemistry also. Okay? I don't think the Pakistanis have the wherewithal to do that. And let's say they even made a couple of rudimentary weapons. You need to miniaturize those into a package that can be delivered, right? That's very hard. That's a hard problem. So that's why. So I'm sure the story must be potentially true. The Moraji Desai story also is most likely true. But I am sure today the weapons in Pakistani territory are American weapons. Okay, Godliness says, brutal reality. Majority of Indian citizens, politicians, and bureaucrats have no issues if India turns into a Western vassal. All they want is to win over Pakistan, have low inflation, and that's it. Yeah, it's true. Most Indian citizens don't care. They don't understand the implications of becoming a vassal of a foreign country. They are concerned with what's around them, 6 feet around them. I want a decent life. I want my children to have a good job. Doesn't matter if the British rule us or the Americans rule us. Doesn't matter. And I want some sense of national pride, which means we will defeat Pakistan. That's it. And if we are a Western vassal, then we will have American universities in India. Isn't that great for us? Isn't it great? Yes. So it's true. Yeah. Most Indians, whether they are citizens, allegedly politicians, allegedly bureaucrats, allegedly whatever else, they most likely have no issues if India becomes a Western vassal. Most of them may actually welcome it. And a vassal status isn't announced. It just happens. So they'll be happy with it. They would like to have more Western infiltration into India. They would like to have all the schools and colleges becoming, Western systems and all. Yeah, you're right. Dark Thunder says, just curious, did the Islamic conquests in India trigger a mass migration of Indians into Nepal and the northern Indian mountains? Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. Probably not. Probably not. Varinder Singh says, can BJP win Punjab as AAP 2 rows from the thing? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea about this. This is in Indian politics. I don't look into this stuff. I don't look into it. So I can't say. Right? I mean, I recently said that I welcome what happened in Bengal. So, yeah, that's a reaction to something that happened. But can something happen in the future? I have no idea. I don't analyze this stuff, so I have no idea. Sorry. The Ghost of Bonaparte says the secret to reforming Indian society is extreme embarrassment. This is the hottest of the hot buttons and provokes rapid change. Critically analyze. Yeah. Extreme embarrassment. Well, that works in any society, actually. It works in any society. If you shame someone, not minor shame, but like major, super embarrassing shame, and that can be a severe deterrent. You know, the prospect of severe shame and all that can be a severe deterrent. So yeah, that works not just in Indian society, but in any society. Every society has different definitions of shame and different things that will shame people. Things that will shame Indians will not potentially shame Americans, and things that will shame Americans may potentially not shame Indians. So it is societally, it depends on the society that we are referring to, but every society has its own definition and version of shame and things that will shame people. And that is a very effective deterrent that can be used for modulating the behavior of people. And that's why blackmail works, allegedly, on politicians and world leaders, allegedly, some of them at least. Right? Yeah. Varinder Singh says, I am really sorry, I forgot. No internal politics. No issues, no issues, no issues, no issues. I don't analyze it, so I can't say. Right? Anyway. Sagar Khare says, why didn't India get a part of Sindh like it did with Punjab and Bengal? It feels like we lost a great piece of land. Yeah, that's a good question. See, the lines on the map were drawn by the British. Who was it? Who was it? Cyril Radcliffe? Who was the guy who drew the map, the partition map? Who was the British official who partitioned India on the map? What is going on? Partition India on the map. Was it Cyril Radcliffe? Okay, this individual, Sir Cyril Radcliffe. Okay, he had no prior knowledge of India. He had never been to India before being summoned to draw the borders. He had no complete understanding of the region's complex geography and so on. Anyway, the question is, why did our fantastic leaders accept that? I understand Radcliffe had no understanding of India. Why did our wonderful freedom fighters and leaders of the nation accept someone like Cyril Radcliffe? Why? Why couldn't we do it ourselves? So that's why these things happened. Okay? A lot of these lines on the map make no sense. I'll tell you what. Even Chittagong should never have gone to East Pakistan. Why did we accept this sort of BS? Why did we not connect our Far East with the Indian Ocean? Why did we not ensure that Chittagong remains within India, even though it had a majority non-Muslim population? Why? Why did we accept this so-called chicken's neck? Why did we not insist that this Rangapur region becomes part of India? Why not? And why was, first of all, partition itself was illegal and illegitimate and completely undemocratic. So we had a bunch of clowns as leaders, essentially. Okay, that's the deal. Kakashi says, who are the US men in black suits Putin refers to? Secondly, good relations with Israel is a gateway to good relations with the West, as Israel influences the collective West. Okay. So Putin once referred to men in black suits, right? American, with reference to the US. He was probably referring to either the CIA or the deep state. Okay, they're minions. Let's ask Google, but my point is Putin did not specify who he was referring to. He made a cryptic comment about men in black suits. But what he meant to say, in my assessment, is it was a reference to either the CIA or a reference to the deep state. Now let's ask what Google has to say. Let's see what Google has to say about this. Who were the American men in black suits that Vladimir Putin once referred to? So, unelected bureaucrats, intelligence officials, and corporate power brokers of the US deep state. There you have it. Okay. So, yeah, the deep state, right? Second is good relations with Israel. Is it a gateway to good relations with the West as Israel influences the collective West? No. It is not necessarily a gateway to good relations with the West. India has pretty strong and good relations with Israel. India has pretty good relations with Israel. But you can see that the US at the same time has a policy of containing India. And it's a hostile policy towards India. It's increasing in hostility. So good relations with Israel, Army, Israel, Chai, all that is not going to translate into good relations with the West. Not at all. Pirovia says, what's your view on Zhangnan? China media attacks Siliguri. Zhangnan is the Chinese name for what? Tibet? Arunachal Pradesh? No. Zhangnan is the name the name the Chinese use for Arunachal Pradesh. And Xizang is the name they use for Tibet. These are all illegitimate names because Tibet is illegally under Chinese occupation. There is no India-China border. It's the India-Tibet border. China should get the hell out of Tibet at the first available opportunity. And Chinese media, we don't need to bother about it. Chinese media is an arm of the Chinese government. If China wants good relations with India, they should withdraw from Tibet post haste. Kakashi says 1 out of 3. The US is a mess. White people, black people, everyone fighting each other, keeping the elites happy. All groups have legitimate grievances, yes. But I want to know who runs the world. Is it the Anglos? Is it the US? Is it the Jews? How many deep state factions? Who is behind wokeness and globalism? What does Israel and Zionism have? Why does it have so much control? Who's behind mass migration, foreign wars, capitalism? Why they against ideologies like nationalism and communism? Why they suppress their own people and history? Okay, so let's take it step by step. The US is a mess. It's increasingly going towards a messy situation right now. Right? There's so much polarization in the US. Blues and reds can't stand each other. Democrats and Republicans, they can't stand each other. And you have these racial issues. Like you say, in many cases, you have white people, black people fighting each other. Now, historically, it was the Reds who were demonized, which is the Native Americans, the Indians who were demonized. When I say Indians, I mean in the colloquial term. I mean the way the Americans refer to the Native Americans, they call them Indians. So it was the Indians or the Native Americans who were demonized and essentially genocided out of existence almost. And it was the blacks who were oppressed very brutally. Now the tables have turned and it's the whites who are being oppressed, it looks like. So it's a nation that oppresses people one way or the other. And the Native Americans are still oppressed. Nothing has changed for them. And you can say that all groups have legitimate grievances, but some groups, the grievances are never heard. Nobody cares about the grievances of the Native Americans, by the way. So you have the situation. Sure, I agree. Now, you want to know who rules the world, who runs the world. Is it Anglos? Is it the US? Is it the Jews, like you say? How many deep state factions? Who's behind wokeness and globalism? Why does Israel have so much control? Why does Zionism have so much control? So who rules the world? We don't know. I don't know. I can't answer the question. Even privately, I'm not sure who rules the world. Privately, also, I'm not sure. Privately, I may have some idea. But publicly, I don't know. It is what it is. Look, privately, I have some inclinations. I suspect certain kinds of people may be ruling the world. But I obviously have no evidence for that. So I won't say it in public. Let's just put it that way. So who rules the world? I don't know. It's definitely not Indians or Chinese or Russians. It's definitely not Europeans. Let me say that. Let me say that. It's not Mexicans, it's not Canadians, it's not South Americans. It's definitely not Africans. Have we narrowed it down somewhat? It's not Australians, it's not New Zealanders, it's not the Japanese, it's not the Southeast, it's not people from Southeast Asia, it's not Pacific Islanders. What else do we have? I'm sure we have. It's not the subcontinent. I'm sure we've ruled most of the nations and most of the people out. So somewhere in whatever is left is those who rule the world. Okay, to some extent, some Europeans may be involved, right? But I can't say for sure exactly who it is, how many factions and all. Who's behind wokeness and globalism? It's these people. Why does Israel and Zionism have so much control? Because Jews are very influential in the US. They are very prosperous. They are very wealthy. They're very influential, and they support both sides of the aisle, and they are very well represented on both sides of the aisle, whether it's US Congress or House. Okay, and if you want to know about wealthy Jews in the US, okay, let's see this. What was the Jewish population? No. What percentage of New York's population was Jewish in 1930? Let's see. About 30% of New York City's total population in 1930 was Jewish. Most of them wealthy. So that explains why Jewish people have so much influence and power and etc. in the US. Okay. So who's behind wokeness, globalism? It's the deep state, whoever they are. Who is behind mass migration, foreign wars, capitalism? It's the deep state, whoever they are. Why are they against ideology like nationalism and communism? Because they would like their ideology to be dominant everywhere, which is capitalism and whatever is the latest thing. Why suppress their own people in history? Maybe they don't see the people of the West as their own people. Maybe their history, they may have their own private history. I don't know. Yeah. So something like that. I don't have the exact answers to your questions. If I knew everything, well, some things remain hidden. Some things are mysteries. Okay. Right Angle says India should buy Greenland and Yemen and Somaliland. Your view? Well, if it's available for sale, I don't mind buying Greenland. The question is, if you buy it, can you defend it? If you acquire a territory, you should have the ability, the capability, the capacity to defend it. Okay? Ownership on a piece of paper does nothing. You should have the ability to defend it. And secondly, you should have the ability to exploit the resources or settle people there, if not exploit the resources. Essentially, make it yours properly. Otherwise, it's just hypotheticals, you see? So, yeah, sure. If Greenland is available, if it's on sale, and if India has the ability to defend it and hold it, sure, buy it. Fast Snail says 3 IPOs of loss-making companies worth 4 trillion coming. Okay, which are these 4 companies? Okay, I can think of SpaceX. Is it a loss-making company? I think it's pretty profitable. Let's see. Is it AI companies? Let's see. Okay, is SpaceX a profit-making or loss-making company? It's highly profitable. Yeah. Okay. Okay. What about OpenAI? Are OpenAI? Are OpenAI, Anthropic? No, come on, man. Are OpenAI and Anthropic profit-making or loss-making companies? Let's get the grammar correct. Let's see. They are fundamentally loss-making companies. Okay. I'm sure there's a couple more. Um, are OpenAI and Anthropic about to do an IPO soon? Yes, both companies are preparing for massive public market debuts and so on. So I can think of two. What about Grok? Is Grok? Not sure about Grok. Okay, it's going to be part of SpaceX's mega IPO. Okay, so I think I can sense what you're talking about. You're talking about IPOs of AI companies. AI is right now in a bubble. Western or American AI is fundamentally overpriced. Okay, American AI, whether it is OpenAI or Anthropic, which is whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or even Gemini, I suppose, all these are massively overpriced. I mean, the subscriptions or the API costs per token, per million tokens, is massively overpriced. Okay, you get very similar capabilities from Chinese models at a fraction of the price. So that's one issue. The second issue is the massive hype over AI. These companies are basically loss-making companies and so on. So there's an AI bubble which will eventually burst at some point in time. Right. Bhaskar Gupta says, what happens to currency holders and investors when an empire fails? And do you think gold will ever lose its value? What could be the scenarios? So when an empire falls, what happens to individuals, currency holders, and investors who have invested in that empire's currency? Well, if that empire's currency is gold, you're good. But if that empire has a fiat currency, you lose all your investments. Your currency becomes pieces of paper, worthless. That's what happens. It's as simple as that. Do I think gold will ever lose its value? It's highly unlikely for the foreseeable future because gold is significantly rare throughout the solar system, not just Earth. Okay? It's as rare in the solar system as it is on Earth. If you go to Mars, you'll hardly find gold, just like Earth. If you go to the moon, how much gold is on? There's trillions of tons of gold on the sun, okay? There should be. How much gold is in the sun right now? How much gold is in the sun in terms of kilograms? Okay, there we have it. See, 1.2 billion trillion kilograms of gold. Massive. It's only 6 parts per billion of the sun's total mass, and yet it has 10 raised to 21 kilograms of gold. Okay, but overall, it's obviously, even on the sun, it's super rare. So I don't see gold losing its value anytime soon, unless we find some other exoplanet somewhere and which is full of gold and we go and mine it. In that case, it may lose its value. But something that is rare and scarce, something that has significant scarcity, is going to have high value. Okay. Cinnamon says, why is our option only between capitalism or socialism? Is there no new system? Well, you see, it's not like that's the only two systems. There's a hybrid system, which is what China has. The thing about capitalism is that it gives you rapid growth and rapid profits. That's the thing about capitalism. But capitalism is inherently super destructive. Capitalism is all about endless, never-ending profits, quarter upon quarter profits, infinite profits on a finite planet. It's going to end up destroying the planet. So that's not the only option. I mean, if you look back to Indian history, 5,000 years ago, India was a fully urbanized, fully industrialized civilization. What was the economic model that our ancestors had back in the day? Was it capitalism? We don't see signs of capitalism. We don't see signs of communism or socialism. We see signs of egalitarianism for sure. We see the absence of monarchy apparent absence of monarchy or whatever. But it's not very clear what the system was. The system was something different. The system was India, Indian culture, civilization. You had the Varna Jati system, where everybody had their own occupation. Everybody had a business industry. Nobody was jobless. There was no need for quarter upon quarter profits and all that. So it was a totally different system. And maybe that's the right system for the planet, but it's not fast growth. And that's the issue in today's world. Everybody wants fast growth. Yeah. Okay. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, your views about Aeschylus and his Orestia trilogy depicting the origins of democracy as a divine gift from Athena. Also about the jury system and democratic processes mentioned in this place. I haven't read Aeschylus, so I can't say. I haven't read this. I'm sorry, I haven't read it. But Athena is the goddess of the city of Athens, the patron goddess of Athens. And democracy is a divine gift from Athena. Okay, interesting story. But I haven't read, unfortunately, that is plays Orestia trilogy. Let's Google it. Aeschylus, Orestia trilogy. 458 BC by Aeschylus, the Orestia, the only surviving ancient Greek tragic trilogy, the cursed house of Atreus. Oh, Atreus. Dune. Atreus. Okay. Exploring the bloody cycle of vendetta and evolution of justice from blood revenge to a civic legal system. Foundational text in Western literature and drama. Okay. King Agamemnon returns to. Okay. All that. Interesting, but I haven't really read this, so I can't really say about, comment about that. Yeah, sorry. Nishant Tiwari says, in the book Vedic Physics, Scientific Origin of Hinduism by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Aja, Avi, Aswa, and Gao are referred to as Gramya particles. Your thoughts? No thoughts, I'm sorry. I haven't read this book by Mr. Ram Mohan Roy, and I don't mix science with religion ever. I have the greatest of respect and pride in my culture and civilization and religion, but I never ever mix it with science. And there's plenty of people who do that. That's good for them. It's not for me. Okay. And the Vedas are not a scientific text. These are not scientific texts. These are the foundational texts of our civilization. They are not scientific texts. What is the difference between science and philosophy? Okay, let's understand the fundamental difference between science and philosophy, or science and religion. So there's science, there's philosophy, and there's religion or spirituality. Three things. Let's understand the difference. Science, one of the sciences, for example, is physics. Then you have chemistry, and so on. Physics, chemistry, biology, the three major sciences. What is science about? Science is about the physical world. It's about observational evidence. It's about physical phenomena. It's about phenomena that can be observed and replicated in the physical world. That is the discipline you must have as a scientist, otherwise you are not a scientist. So science concerns itself with the physical world, the world of the physical, the real, and phenomena that are observable and replicable, and theories about these phenomena and objects and the physical world. That is what science is concerned with. Philosophy is different. It is broader than science. Philosophy is also about logic. Philosophy is never illogical. It's also logical, just like science. But philosophy also includes non-physical objects and phenomena. God, the soul. These are not physical objects. You can't observe the soul. You can't quantify the size or weight of the soul. So it's a non-physical object if it is an object. Philosophy also talks about ethics and morality, which are abstract terms that have no meaning in science. So that's the difference between science and philosophy. Now, religion is often about beliefs. Religion can also be about philosophy. Dharmic religions are all about philosophical schools of thought. But there are elements of pure belief also in dharmic religions and adharmic religions, so to say. Right? So in religions, there is sometimes or often, depending on the religion, an element of blind belief. Sometimes, at least. In some religions, it's always. In dharmic religions, it's mostly logical, mostly philosophical. But even in dharmic religions, in some cases, in some traditions, you have blind belief. In some traditions. So that is the difference between science, philosophy, and religion. If you are a scientist and you start mixing these things up, you are no longer a scientist. Okay? And when non-scientists write about science, they mix everything up. Because they are not aware of the discipline that a scientist has to follow. And they are not aware of the boundaries of science. And what is no longer science. So let's say you're talking about physics, but you start involving spiritual texts and physical and philosophical texts and dharmic texts. Well, you are straying way beyond the boundaries of science in that case. But Mr. Ram Mohan Roy was most likely not a scientist. So he was not aware of the discipline. So then you will talk about all kinds of things. And I stick to the discipline. So I have no thoughts about that. I hope I explained what I mean. And I hope I explained why I follow this discipline. All right. The Eternal Witness has gifted one membership of the channel to one lucky person. So I thank you very much, sir or ma'am, on behalf of the lucky person for being so kind as to do that. Thank you so much. Shivansh says, why did so many mighty empires, one after the other, emerge from the Gangetic plains, specifically around Magad Patliputra region? Good question. So, why did so many empires, mighty empires, emerge from the Magad region? And the great city in the region is Patliputra. So we had the Nanda Empire, which was the Nanda Empire. What was the capital? It was most likely Patliputra, which is the empire that came before the Maurya Empire. What was the capital of the Nanda Empire? It was Patliputra, right? Present day Patna. So the capital of the Nanda Empire was Patliputra. The Nanda Empire was a mighty empire. When Alexander the Greek came on his way towards India with the hope of conquering India, it was the Nanda Empire that ruled in India. And it is that empire and its immense might that frightened his soldiers away. And they rebelled and mutinied against him and forced him to go back to Babylon. So you had the Nanda Empire. Then you had the Maurya Empire, once again emerged out of Patliputra. Then you had the Gupta Empire, which also emerged out of the Magad region. Patliputra was originally the capital initially. Then you had the Pala kingdom and so on and so forth. Yeah. So why is it the Magad region? Why is it Patliputra? It's a very fertile place and with a big population. Right? So most likely it's because of the large population and fertility of the region. So it's very easy to have large population with a good quality of life. Today it's post-colonial India. That's why we don't have a good quality of life there. But historically, you had the best quality of life in India that you found in that region, right? So historically, that's one reason potentially why so many mighty empires came out of it. Maybe something else. I'm not sure what, but yeah, it's a great question. It's a pattern that you see over time, right? The fourth century BC, the third century BC, the Shunga Empire also. Then the sixth, the fourth, third, fourth, fifth centuries AD. So yeah, it's definitely a pattern. One of the factors I can think of is the fertility of the soil, the large population, the great living standards and quality of life you had there, or the fact that people were educated. You had great universities in the region. You had great traditions in the region. All these factors probably came together and created perfect storms where empires emerge repeatedly. Okay, Harshai says, please search army guy simping. I mean, showing his soft side to the public isn't a flaw in the army. Like enemy nations can use honey traps on us, and this stupid also supporting this simp behavior. I don't know how to search for an army guy simping. I have no idea how to search, and yeah, I have no idea what exactly you are referring to here. And if somebody is doing something that is not right, I would rather not display it to the public over here. So if somebody is doing something that they should not be doing, and they are apparently, like you say, in the army, I hope the government looks into it. That's all I can say. Right Angle says, please, organization, a meetup. We want to meet. Thank you. Meet you. Thank you. Well, I could do that. Yeah, I should do that. I certainly can do it. The question is where and how. Like, for example, if I say let's meet up at this public place, and if let's hypothetically 2,000 people turn up, I suppose the cops couldn't get involved in that. It's been known to happen to certain people in the past. Or I could hire some venue and do something. I'll think about it. It's certainly something I would personally love to do. I would love to meet my viewers from different parts of at least metropolitan India, let's say initially. I'd love to do that. So thank you for the recommendation, the suggestion, and I will do this. I'll just have to think of a proper, systematic, proper way of doing it. I would love to do it. Thank you. Varinder Singh says, since Pakistan-Afghan war started, I saw many Pakistanis on social media teasing Afghan Pashtuns that you are not Persian, not Bani Israeli, but part of Akhand Bharat. Okay. So look, the Pakistanis are upset that Afghanistan is allied with India, that we have good relations with the Afghans. So they would like to, taunt the Afghans about that you are Indian vassals or whatever. When it is not the case. Afghanistan is not controlled by India. We don't exploit Afghanistan. We haven't vassalized Afghanistan. We don't use Afghanistan for our purposes and our benefits. We don't do that. But the Pakistanis will like to, say such things. Yeah. So I would say to our Afghan brothers and sisters, ignore these Pakistanis. Ignore them. Right? And when it comes to ethnicity, Afghanistan is Gandhar. So if Afghanistan is part of Akhand Bharat, what the hell is Pakistan then? Pakistan is even more part of Akhand Bharat then. Because historically, Pakistan before 1947 was Bharat. Pakistan is even more part of Akhand Bharat. Let me remind our Pakistani brothers and sisters of that. This social media stuff, banter and teasing and all goes on. Not take it too seriously. And Afghans are certainly not Bani Israeli or whatever. Of course they are not. Of course not. Persian, they're not Persian. The Pashtuns ethnically are part of the extended northern Indian population. That's what they are. Most of them won't agree with what I'm saying, but facts are facts. Beckenbauer says, ancient sages in India used kalpas to calculate the universe's age near 4.32 billion years. How did they manage to do this in those times without ancient technology? I don't know how they did that. It's a mystery to me as well. They did not use the methods of what we today call science. They see what did ancient rishis do? How did they acquire insights? They did tapasya, didn't they? Strong tapasya, robust, rigorous, brutal meditation. They went deep within. They are said to have meditated for years and decades, some of them, right? Obviously, there are fantastical stories today that they did not eat food or breathe or drink or water or whatever for decades. That obviously is not the case in real life, would not have been the case in real life. But it's possible that many of them would have spent years or even decades meditating, not constantly, obviously. You got to stay alive, but yeah, that sort of thing, right? So they would have gone deep, deep within. They would have explored deep within the inner universe. And apparently, the inner universe and the outer universe, there is some correlation. So they used methods that are lost today, I would say, or maybe methods that can be rediscovered by somebody who does something similar, dedicates their life to this sort of practice, exploring the inner universe rigorously for decades. You may come up with insights, but then you can't convey or communicate those insights and how you reach the insights. You can only communicate what you saw and what you realized and what insights you gained, but you can't communicate how you achieved and you can't prove what you've discovered. But in India, that was fine. We did not ask for proof. But in science, you've got to prove things, right? So we're not sure how it was done, but yeah, our ancestors, our ancients gained a lot of incredible insights through these processes. Akash Chaurasia says, what is easier, space exploration, ocean exploration? If it's ocean exploration, how much do we know about it and why aren't we doing more for the same? What's easier? That's a great question. Is it space exploration? Is it ocean exploration? I would say space exploration is easier, which sounds counterintuitive, which sounds strange. Space is so far away, the ocean is right here. And yet, space exploration is easier. First of all, we can see space, we can see what's out there. Okay? The oceans, you can't see. Light does not penetrate the oceans beyond 50, 60, 100 meters. How deep does light penetrate in the oceans? Let's find out. I would say maximum 100 meters, most likely 60, 70 meters. How deep does light penetrate below the oceans? Ocean's surface. 1,000 meters. Really? Okay, visible. Okay, okay. Good. A better way to ask would have been visible light. Okay, visible light significant enough to support photosynthesis only reaches up to 200 meters. Okay, so I was not entirely correct about that, but fine, good. But photons typically go up to 1,000 meters. But visible light, human visible light. Okay, this is a better question, probably. Human visible light. It's giving the same answers. Okay, let's just say visible light. Visible light. Same question. Okay, whatever. But the point is that beyond 50, 60 meters, visibility is almost zero. Or am I once again wrong, Dilip? At what depth does visibility become zero under the ocean? Okay, it's the same answer it's giving me every time. How far can you see underwater? 1,000 meters, 10 feet of water. How the anyway, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's 1,000 meters. It sounds ridiculous, but okay. But the point is, it's very hard to see what's under the ocean, and much of the oceans, much of the oceans, not surface, but the bottom, sub ocean parts of the planet. I mean, we know the contours, we know the geological features and all, the underwater mountains and ridges and valleys. We know the shape of all those things, but we don't quite know exactly what is there. So you see, you have various navies that map the oceans properly so that their submarines can travel. Submarines are blind, by the way; they only have sonar. So they use these maps of the subsurface topography of the oceans to navigate. But we still don't know what's out there. There could be unknown species of animals down there. We know that you have oil and gas that's found under the oceans, below the crust. We know that there's minerals like nickel and whatnot. Nuggets of metal that sit on the ocean floor. And overall, much of the subsurface world is essentially unknown. So, and if you want to go 1,000 meters down, at a depth of 1,000 meters down for exploration or whatever, it's very hard to do that, because at a depth of 1,000 meters, you've got 1,000 meters, a kilometer of water that's crushing down on you. That's a huge amount of pressure. Most submarines have a crush depth of maybe 500, 600 meters. Let's find out the crush depth of various submarines. So what is the crush depth, first of all, of a submarine? It is the depth below the surface of the ocean where the ocean's pressure will crush the hull of the submarine. The submarine will implode. So every submarine has a design limitation of how deep it can go, depending on how strong the hull is. Whether it's steel, whether it's an alloy, whether it's titanium, or whether it's a single hull, double hull, whatever. Okay, let's find out the crush depth of submarines. What is the typical crush depth of an Akula class submarine? Let's find out. 840 meters, Akula class, okay? Of a swordfish. Okay, of a Ohio class submarine, let's see. 800, no? 800 feet. Feet is, what about Akula? 840 meters, that's 2,755 feet. Ohio is 1,200 feet, 300 to 400 to 500 meters. I would be surprised if it is that less. Anyhow, that's Ohio class. So we have the Akula class with the Ohio class. Aryan class, I will not ask. So that's the thing. See, it's hard to reach even 1,000 meters. So there are all these inherent problems with exploring the subsurface world, which is why it's easier to explore space than below the ocean. Right. Pupi says, thoughts on Santashta people being called Vedic Aryans. It's very clear if you examine. See, the Santashta people no longer exist. Their descendants exist wherever in the world. Santashta Petrovka in the Urals region. Where is Santashta Petrovka? First of all, let's figure that out. Santashta Petrovka, Santashta culture. So where exactly do we find it is the question. Where was it found? It was found here. So where exactly is that in the present day world? Let me quickly see. In the present day world, it is it's in Kazakhstan. No, it's in Russia. It's in southern Russia. Which part of the southern Russia? It's in the Kazan, Chelyabinsk. It's in the Siberian region. Okay. Santashta Petrovka. And if you see the archaeological evidence and all, you can see that there are significant similarities to Vedic culture and all. You see that. Now, how old is Santashta culture? Let's find out. How old was the Sintashta Petrovka culture? Okay, 4,500 to 4,000 years ago. I mean, okay, India is obviously much older than that. So you have Indian culture, Vedic culture, etc., which you find across Indian archaeology all over the place. Then you have Sintashta culture, that's about 2000 BC, 2500 BC, like 2000 kilometers away. Hmm? Which is older? India. But Sintashta is the ancestral culture. How does it make sense? How does it make sense? How? Explain how. So it's a joke, essentially. Kakashi says most Western people and governments justify European colonization. Yes, they try to justify it. They tried their best to justify it. They say that we abolished the slavery. The British Empire abolished slavery, and colonialism was beneficial for the colonized subject peoples because they were backward and barbaric, and we civilized them. We brought them. We gave them gifts such as the English language and railways and the judiciary. All that BS. The Native Americans were barbarians. They were killing each other. So we put an end to the killing. We civilized them by genociding the hell out of them. The Aztecs were bloodthirsty. They killed 4,000 people every year on those pyramids. Blood sacrifices. How many people did the UK hang per year in public sacrifices? Let's find out. Okay. How many people were executed per year in the UK in the year 1600? In the 1600s. Up to 1,000 per year nationally. Before in 16. So historians estimate hanging rates of 30 per 100,000 people, with 150 people executed per year in whatever. Okay, in the 1700s, what did we have? London doesn't give you exact numbers of the entire nation. 1800s, let's see. 1800s, 80 per year in the. Seriously. My point is, if you look at the population of the Aztec Empire, of the Triple Alliance Empire of the Aztecs, okay, which was based out of Tenochtitlan, and if you look at a similar population in Europe, you would have a similar number of people being executed per year. But the Aztecs are bloody barbarians and the Europeans are enlightened. So you put tags on people, tags that you are barbarian, you have human sacrifice. I mean, a public execution is a human sacrifice, isn't it? To justice or whatever. So, yeah, so that's what they do. Brain Quest says, I've heard a few astrologers predict that Pakistan as a country will cease to exist by 2028. Is this possible according to you as a geopolitical expert? Look, I have no understanding of astrology, so I shall not comment about that, about astrology. Is it possible that Pakistan as a country will cease to exist by 2028? If you ask me, I will say it's unlikely. I say it's unlikely, but I don't mind it happening. I would like the people of Pakistan to be free of this brutal, oppressive military dictatorship that they have been laboring under for the past 70, 80 years. It will be great for the people of Pakistan to be free of this. Right? I would like Sindh to be free again, Balochistan to be free again. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, if they want, they can go back to Afghanistan. It will be great for the people of Pakistan if this happens. So I don't mind it, but I think it's unlikely. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, Sophocles, through his plays, the Oedipus Rex trilogy, served warnings against the dangers of monarchy and hubris through the downfall of characters like Creon. Also, young is better than old and democracy is better than monarchy views. I haven't read the Greek plays. I haven't read Oedipus Rex. I think it's pretty icky. If you ask me about Oedipus Rex, I'm aware of the overall concept and theme of that, Oedipus Rex. So yeah, so I haven't read it. Okay. Do I think monarchy is bad and democracy is better? I mean, look at India. Look at India. India is a cautionary tale when it comes to democracy, right? Is young better than old? No, overall, you want a nation to be young and have lots of young people for sure. But it doesn't mean that young people are better than old. All human beings are equally valuable, no matter their age, whether they are 3 months old, or 13 years old, or 30 years old, or 300 years old. Beckenbauer says, how do fractal curves infinitely band without overlap? Fractal curves. The Mandelbrot set. Now, how do I explain this without resorting to equations? The mathematical equations. Fractals are mathematical equations. Okay, let's see what a typical fractal equation looks like. What does a typical fractal equation look like? Yeah, so there we have it, the core formula, the Mandelbrot set, like I said. Okay, there's a nice joke about the Mandelbrot set that I can go into, but this is the core formula, and if you apply the formula, you will see this infinite thing. Okay, it's essentially iteration, right? Right. And that's why whether you zoom in or zoom out, it looks the same, and it goes on forever. It essentially goes on forever. Now, what is the joke about the Mandelbrot set? Let me quickly see. I shall open my Twitter account. There's a joke about the Mandelbrot set somewhere. I may have tweeted that joke. Let's see. Benoit Mandelbrot. Yes. So allegedly, when Benoit B. Mandelbrot used to be asked about what the B in his name stood for, he would reply, the B, it stands for Benoit B. Mandelbrot. So it becomes infinitely recursive, right? The B stands for Benoit B. Mandelbrot. So it becomes infinitely recursive, and that itself is essentially the definition of a fractal, right? So that's the deal. That's how it happens. Okay, Kakashi says, Fiji president joked Indian followers are easy, just watch Durand. FI means Fiji? Do you mean Fiji? Indian followers are easy. I'm not sure what Fiji president. What exactly? Okay, here. So, Fiji president. Joke. Bad joke. I'm not sure what it is. Joke of the century. Are you talking about Sitiveni Rabuka? Sitiveni Rabuka is quite a person, isn't he? Quite a story behind. I'm not sure what the joke is. Is it the Fijian president or somebody else? Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring. Just watched Durand. All right. Okay. Ghost of Bonaparte says Durandar popular because it was vicarious vengeance for those events. Durandar is popular because it was vicarious vengeance for those events which are still within vivid living memory. Yes, Pakistan has done a lot of terrorism against India, right? They are the world's epicenter of terrorism. They've exported so much terror to India over the decades. There was a time when every week almost, you had a terror attack in India. India suffered a lot. And for the longest time, Indian governments chose to be helpless. And now, allegedly, there are unknown men who deal with these Pakistanis. So yes, it was vicarious vengeance for all those events, and many of those terror attacks are still vivid in the living memory of so many Indians today. So yeah, and Durandar is about giving it back to the Pakistanis. So obviously makes sense. It's popular, isn't it? Well done, really well made movies. Pradeep Kumar Roy comes back to Greek plays, I suppose. Euripides, often the most critical of the trio, challenged Athenian imperialism and wars through his works like the Trojan Women and the Bacchae. Views? I have no views, sir. I have not studied the Greek plays. I haven't read them. I have no views about these. Okay, I haven't read the Greek plays. I'm sure they're interesting. I've never had the opportunity to read them. I preferred to spend my time studying history. I was aware of Sophocles and Oedipus Rex and so on, and obviously Homer, the Iliad, the Odyssey, and so much more. I was aware of Greek poetry. I'm aware of obscure poetry like Sappho, for example. Sappho. Only fragments of her poetry survive, but she's supposed to be one of the greats. So there's plenty of literature out there, especially Greek literature, that is considered to be foundational to Western literature. And I could have spent a couple of years studying all that, reading all that. I'm sure it would have been interesting. I could have spent a couple of years reading all of Shakespeare's plays. I read some Shakespeare, some of it, little bit here out of curiosity. But I chose to spend my time, whatever free time I had, studying history, among other things. Yeah. So I have no views on this because I am not familiar with it. Kakashi says Bill Gates must stop health experiments on Indians. I would modify your statement and I would say the government of India must stop any potential future health experiments that Bill Gates may potentially in the future seek to conduct in India or on Indians. If there is any such future, program that Bill Gates is planning, the government of India must stop him in that case. That's what I would say. Right. Fast Snail says Venezuela's acting president is in India. Vasal test time. So Madame Delcy Rodriguez was in India or is in India. She met with Shri Prime Minister Modi ji. And she met with what's his name? Sergio Gore, the American ambassador to India. He is the overlord for her, isn't he? She's a vassal. And she also went to some religious place. She is a believer in Shri Sai Baba. So she went to his ashram or something. And yeah, so that's what I'm aware of. And it looks like India has been given approval by the US to buy Venezuelan oil very generously and magnanimously. And it's okay for India. We don't mind buying it. We have a refinery that can actually refine that. One of only 3 refineries in the world that can refine heavy, sour crude oil. So we are fine with that. And so it makes sense to have a discussion with Madame Delcy Rodriguez. Yeah, that's the deal. Subha Baperi says, do you think this is the last chance they have? Do you think this the last chance they have to test a nuclear weapon? Or do you think they will surrender their enriched uranium to the USA? Are you talking about, when you say they, are you talking about the Taliban? Or are you talking about North Korea? Or are you talking about the Republic of Zimbabwe? Or are you talking about Fiji? Or Botswana? Or Somaliland? Or Denmark? Or Paraguay? I think you are talking about Iran. It helps if you make it completely unambiguous, okay? But I think you're talking about Iran, right? So, do I think this is the last chance Iran has to test a nuclear weapon? No. They can test a nuclear weapon anytime as long as they remain a sovereign nation. Do I think they will surrender their enriched uranium to the USA? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They will not surrender it to the USA. No sovereign nation does that. And they are a sovereign nation. So I do not think they will surrender their enriched uranium to the USA. And as long as they remain sovereign and independent, they can test a nuclear weapon anytime of their choosing if they choose to. Maybe tomorrow morning, maybe 5 years down the line. As long as they remain sovereign, they can do it whenever they choose to. All right. Anabil Shorkar says, what is this AI? What is AI, this bubble about? What is this AI bubble about? In the late 1990s, you had the dot-com bubble. Okay? The internet was a new thing. Nobody knew what the internet was all about. Some people had started using the internet, but most people had no idea what is this internet about. George W. Bush said, I use the internet sometimes. So no one knew what it was about, but it was clearly the new emerging technology. And every business wanted to be on the internet. Every business wanted to have a .com for itself. So those who understood how to make websites and how to register domains and stuff like that, they made a killing. And if you were a venture capital guy or gal, and you had money lying idle, you wanted to invest it somewhere, the .com time was when you just threw money at any company that had a .com associated with it. So if you had some business idea and you attached .com to it, you would attract a tremendous amount of venture capital. And that went on for 2-3 years until eventually people started understanding what the internet is about, what actual business opportunities are available online, and what just doesn't make sense. And that eventually led to the puncturing of the .com bubble when all that money was wasted. And venture capitalists then stopped investing in .coms. So that was the .com bubble and the .com crash. Now, right now, we are in the situation where AI is this new emerging technology. Most people have no idea about the heads or tails of AI. But everyone understands that AI is a big deal. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being thrown at AI in the US. Companies have tremendous valuations, whether it's OpenAI, whether it is Anthropic and so on, or Gemini, which is part of Alphabet. And AI is, every company wants to adopt AI. Everybody wants to make their business AI enabled. Students use AI to do their homework, right? So AI is everywhere, but most people don't understand what it's about. Most people don't understand the technology. What is AI? What is a language? What is a model? What is a language model? What's a large language model? What's a small language model? What's a world model? How is it different from a language model? What's an image model? What's a video model? What are tokens? What are tokens in a language model? What are weights? Oh, DeepSeek open source their weights. What are weights? What are embeddings? What are parameters? What are these things? What does it mean when a model has, let's say, 100 million parameters as opposed to 100 billion parameters? Are more parameters better? So these are the things people have absolutely no understanding of. But sounds very impressive. Right? What is distillation? What's a distilled model? What are all these things? What is parameter space? What are transformers? What are all these things? So most people have absolutely no. I don't blame people for not knowing about these things. These are very technical terms. This is all part of computer science. This linear algebra, this matrix multiplication that's happening, and so much more. Okay, we don't need to go into the details. So people don't know what AI is, and sounds very impressive. So if you're a venture capitalist, you're gonna dump money on AI, throw money at AI. Okay, with the hope and expectation that I'll multiply by my money, and my 1 million will become 100 million or a billion or something. But eventually, people will realize what AI is about, and they'll understand that we have been overhyping AI, potentially overvaluing companies which are loss-making companies. And the Chinese models are available for a fraction of the price as the American models, and yet give almost the same performance. They're almost as powerful, maybe just as powerful. Why? Of course, they're Chinese models. So if you ask what happened on July 4th, 1989, they will say nothing happened. And Anthropic will tell you what actually happened. Okay. If you say, ask about Tibet, it will say, so there are peculiarities of each model, but yeah. So in the US, AI companies are being overpriced. AI is unnecessarily expensive. And eventually the markets and the venture capitalists and the world will readjust and reevaluate this thing. And at that point in time, maybe some companies will crash and so on. So that's the AI bubble. Okay. I hope I explained that and it made sense. All right. Rich Blaze says, if consciousness is a function of brain and brain structure is changing every second, does this mean we die and are reborn every second but don't notice? That's a good, interesting question. The ship of Theseus. The ship of Theseus. What is this concept? What is the concept of the ship of Theseus? Okay, check this out. Before we go into it, we read that out, okay? The concept of the ship of Theseus. What is that? Let's say you have a ship. You build it with wood and nails and various components, okay? And you make a whole ship. And you take it out at sea. 6 months, you come back. Some of the wood is cracked. Some of the parts have to be replaced. So you take out that wood and you replace those wood panels with new wood panels. You remove some of the corroded screws, put new screws. Some of the sails are torn. You take out those sails and you put fresh sails. This process goes on for 20, 30, 40 years. After 40 years, you will realize that you have replaced everything with something new. Is it the same ship now? When none of the original components are there, everything has been replaced, but you still name it the same. Do you know most of the cells in the human body, they are replaced every few months? Okay. Billions of red blood cells are dying every day in your body and are being replaced. Skin cells are being shed, they are being replaced. Hair follicles, hair cells, muscle cells, fat cells, all the tissues of your body, they are completely regenerated every few months. Even the calcium in your bones is regenerated. Are you the same person you were 6 years ago? You're not. Physically, you're not. But you are still there. I have been in here since the day I was born. But physically, none of the original cells exist in me today. That's the concept of the ship of Theseus. Now let's read it out, okay? The ship of Theseus is a classic philosophical thought experiment that questions whether an object remains fundamentally the same if all its components are completely replaced over time. Okay? And so on. The human body continuously replaces cells, and every cell, same thing that I said. Okay? That's the point. So then, within the context of what we just discussed, does this mean that we die and are reborn every second but don't notice? It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. Now, is consciousness a function of the brain? It looks like that. It looks like it resides in here. I'm certainly not conscious in here or in some other part of my body. I'm okay, I'm conscious in here, right? My consciousness resides here. So, and the cells and the cells are being regenerated. They die and they're replaced. But the neurons aren't replaced. Are neurons replaced in the brain? Does the human brain replace its neurons over time? Probably does not. It does partially, though it's not a total replacement. We are born with most of our neurons, but certain areas, the hippocampus, etc., yeah, okay. But most of the brain's original neurons are permanent and last your entire lifetime. So that's the point. See, if the brain is indeed the seat of consciousness, well, the thinking neurons are never replaced. The hippocampus isn't really used for thinking or whatever. Your consciousness isn't there in the hippocampus. It's in other parts of the brain. So those are not replaced. Blood cells and liver cells and kidney cells and lung cells and nose cells and skin cells, these are replaced. Neurons aren't replaced. As you see, it's not the case. Beckenbauer says Padmanabha temple's ancient treasures like a time capsule. Should the government audit it to unlock historical secrets, or should it be left untouched as divine wealth? The government of India should stay far away from the Padmanabha Swami temple. The Indian state apparatus should stay out and far away from the Padmanabha Swami temple and whatever wealth and treasure lies stored within. Okay? This wealth, this treasure, cumulative treasure, was donated to the temple by our ancestors, by ancient Indians and ancient non-Indians over a period of thousands of years. It's a historical treasure, and not just a treasure in terms of value, but deeper treasure culturally and civilizationally as well. And no secular government should touch that with its fingers. Someday in the future, when you have a dharmic government, sure, we can audit it. No secular government should be allowed anywhere near it. And I am very grateful to the Honorable Supreme Court of India for ensuring that this treasure is not touched by politicians or government. Mohit Raj Singh says deaths in World War II: Soviets 27 million, China 20 million, Germany 7 million, Poland 7 million, Jews 6 million allegedly, India 5 million. Why the world only remembers 6 million? Also, where to learn actual original history? Well, the world is selective, the world is hypocritical, and the world it's very susceptible to propaganda and narrative building. And that's why the world only remembers certain things and ignores everything else. The British, they engineered hundreds of artificial famines in India during the period of time they occupied India. Hundreds of millions of Indians died. The world doesn't bother to remember. In the immediate aftermath of 1857, the British killed at least 10 million Indians. The world doesn't bother to remember that. During the Turkic occupation of India, hundreds of millions of Indians were killed. The world doesn't recognize that. The Nazis did a Holocaust of the Romani people as well, the Indian origin gypsies. The world doesn't bother to remember that. The Europeans genocided at least 56 million Native Americans. The world doesn't care to remember that. The Belgians genocided at least 10 million Congolese, innocent civilians. The world doesn't bother to remember that. The United States is founded on genocide and slavery. The world doesn't care. It's all propaganda, you see. Where to learn original history? It's all around you. You need to read as much as you can. But the more you read, the more you will understand what is true and what's not. Okay, so you start with reliable sources. Go to, let's say, Amazon.com or wherever. Search for whatever. See, don't read a book of world history. Start with regions and time periods. Let's say, hypothetically, you want to read the history of Rome, the Roman Empire. So start with Julius Caesar, the life story of Julius Caesar. Go to Amazon.com and look for biographies of Julius Caesar and pick the one that has the highest number of reviews and the highest ratings. Then pick one for the for the life of Augustus, or maybe a book on the life story of various the greatest emperors of the Roman Empire and so on. And that's how you start doing it. Eventually, when you have reasonably good foundation based on the most acclaimed books, Then you can start reading elsewhere, and then you will start understanding what's right and what's wrong, and what's propaganda and what's truth. And that's how you do it. All right. Pradyuman Thakur says, thoughts on Keshav Bedi? Pure economic. I have nothing to say about anybody. Okay? I have no interest in. I don't care what somebody says. And who the hell is this person? And why are you bringing this up over here? Why do you care what someone thinks? So look, when you walk on the street and let's say some dog barks at you, are you gonna start having thoughts about this particular dog barking at me? Whenever you walk on the streets, you're gonna have these situations where dogs will bark at you. So should I respond to each dog? Should I have thoughts about every dog? Who cares what this dog's name is and what he says and why he's barking? Who cares? Okay, so please don't bring these unnecessary, pointless things to me. It's a waste of my time. I simply don't care. Okay, as long as my audience thinks that I have something of value to offer, I'm perfectly happy. I simply don't care what somebody has to say. All right. Kakashi says, Finnish Prez joke Indian followers are easy. Watch Durandar. Okay, it's not Fiji, it's Finland. Okay, let's see now. Finland president joke about India, Durandar. Finland's president Alexander Stubb joked that his Instagram blew up and went huge with Indian followers after he mentioned watching the Bollywood spy thriller Durandar, amusing remark, etc. Jogging conversation. All right. Okay. Okay. Good that he watched the movie, I suppose. Okay. Harinder says, what do you do to promote Sanskrit? Do you prefer English? Okay. It's a good question. It's a legitimate question. I say that Sanskrit should be made the official language of India, civilizational language of India. But what do I do to promote it? I prefer English. I do prefer to speak in English because I want the entire world to hear what I have to say. And today, in today's date, in 2026, English is unfortunately the language that most people globally understand. Now, if I start speaking Sanskrit over here, I will have 2 people watching or 3 people watching live. It's just a hard reality. So I will use the language of the colonizer to put forth my views about the colonizer and the world. Now, what do I do to promote Sanskrit? Check out my previous videos. Let me show you an example of what I do, let's say, to promote Sanskrit. Let me give you an example. I mean, do I even have to show you this? But anyway, let's do it. Right? So I have recommended books in the past. If you go here, okay? If you go to my YouTube channel and you search for Sanskrit. So best book for learning Sanskrit. You can watch that. So the best book for learning Sanskrit, if you can read Devanagari and understand Hindi, is Sanskrit Swayam Shikshak. I have recommended that book multiple times. That's one thing I've done. Okay. So you are right. I prefer English. I prefer English for practical reasons. If I speak in Hindi, for example, maybe half of the Indian audience won't understand it or will choose not to understand it. If I speak Hindi, I will only have an Indian audience. If I speak Sanskrit, I will only have an audience of 3 or 4 people watching. I think that what I have to say is important. And I think that what I have to say could be heard across the world. That's why, for practical reasons, I use English. And there's another reason as well. That unfortunate reason is that I am more comfortable speaking English than any Indian language. That's called mental colonization. It's because of my upbringing and so on, and that is uh, the case with many Indians today. I hope I have perhaps made things a little clear. Jillyman says, what would happen if Mughal and Islamic attacked China? As China is a Buddhist nation, would they have fought like us, or the whole civilization would have converted? See, China historically was a pretty Buddhist civilization. Historically, as in the last 2000 years, right? But the emperors never practiced Buddhism. I can't think of any emperor except for Shri Kublai Khan, who practiced Buddhism. And Shri Kublai Khan was not Chinese; he was Mongol. He was the grandson of Shri Chinggis Khan. So let's it's an interesting question to address. How many Chinese emperors practiced Buddhism? How many Chinese emperors practiced Buddhism? I would say almost none. Dozens of emperors. Emperor Ming of Tang, of Han, Xiao Wei, Tang Dynasty. Tang Dynasty, sure, okay, yeah. Qing Dynasty. So, see, there's a difference between practicing and patronizing. The Tang rulers would have practiced Buddhism for sure. The Ming would have supported some various Buddhist practices. The Qing would have also supported Buddhism, but practicing is a whole different story. Apart from the Tang emperors and apart from the Yuan dynasty, which is the Mongol dynasty, I can't think of any emperors who practiced Buddhism. They would have supported, patronized it, that's fine. But practicing is different. The Chinese emperors typically practiced Confucianism and legalism, or a blend of both. And both of these are atheistic practices. There's no God in that, okay? And the Chinese emperors were very practical. And they would have resisted any such invasion very vigorously, by the way. Okay. And look, Shri Kublai Khan was Buddhist. Do you think he was a non-violent person? Does Buddhism say? I mean, the Japanese samurai were Buddhists. The samurai were Buddhists. Have you heard of what is it called? Muay Thai. Have you heard of Muay Thai? The martial art, the Thai martial art, where you have the high elbows. High. You don't defend here, you go high. Muay Thai. Pretty brutal sport. Pretty brutal. Thailand is Buddhist. So we have this imagination in our head, in our minds, that Buddhism is non-violence. Well, explain the samurai. Explain Shri Kublai Khan. Explain Muay Thai. Explain Kung Fu, Shaolin. Of course, it came from India. Well, Bodhidharma was Buddhist. He taught what eventually became known as Kung Fu to the Chinese monks. So, the Chinese would have fought. Akash Chaurasya says, if everything requires a cause, what caused the first cause? And does everything require a cause? Or is it just probability? Well, every effect has a cause. Causality. Every effect is a cause. Right? Everything comes from something. This is not just a philosophical question, it's also a physical question that you're asking. Everything requires a cause. Radiation has a cause. Gravitation has a cause. Right? Every action has a reaction. Every reaction requires an action. Everything comes from something. You may think that radioactivity is probabilistic, but it also has a cause. The cause lies in the laws of quantum mechanics. We'll not go there. But point is, everything has a cause. So then the question you ask is, what caused the first cause? And the answer is, we don't know. The first cause. I mean, what is the first thing that happened? What is the first thing that happened at the beginning? The first thing that happened at the beginning is the event that's known as, somewhat incorrectly, as the Big Bang. Right? That's the first thing that happened. The expansion of space and time, the initial expansion of space and time, which is the beginning of time itself. Before that, there was no time. But even that would have required a cause. So, what was that cause and what caused it is the question we can't answer. Because what you're asking me is what caused the Big Bang. And no physicist has an answer to that because we lack the data. We lack the data. So no physicist can answer this question. So what you're essentially asking me is what caused the Big Bang and what came before it. And we don't know. No physicist can give that answer, no matter how many Nobel Prizes he or she has won, whether it's Albert Einstein or Stephen Hawking or Subramaniam Chandrasekhar or whoever. No one can answer the question because we lack the data. Hopefully someday we may find some data. That'll be fun. But as of now, we can't answer the question. All right. So that brings me to the end of today's live stream. It was fun, great fun. Thank you so much for all the questions. And I shall now, at this point in time, end the live stream. It was great fun. All right. So take care, everybody. Thank you so much for the questions. And we shall continue this next week. I'll take more questions next week. Until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep raising your standards. Thank you so much, everybody. See you very soon. Bye-bye.